news of the day.
Ladies and gentlemen,
this is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mace.
Who is pleasant to listen to.
With Caroline Fenton, Willy Donick, and former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason.
You are hands down my favorite radio personality of all time.
On 102.5 and 106.3, The Game and the Game Nashville app.
With no further ado,
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game, and the Game Nashville app. We are live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Game Studios, streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. Video streaming is brought to you by Superbook Sports. We're out here at Pete and Terry's Tavern at Bridgestone Arena. The Predators in action tonight against the Vegas Golden Knights. Quick turnaround from the rough 5-1 loss in Dallas last night. D-Mase, Willy D, how we doing?
Doing well. Can't complain. A lot warmer than it was yesterday, Willie.
Beautiful day today.
It hit 90 yesterday in Dallas.
We
were walking to the range.
We didn't ask you all that.
Were you out sunbathing?
You know what? I was just thinking to
Mason
myself, I kind of need to get some vitamin D. I need to get out there a little bit. But I was sweating walking over to the arena. I was like, good grief, it's 90 degrees out here.
While we were dealing with what, 60 or
Freezing my butt
55,
off.
somewhere around there, 60.
I was all bundled up in a coat when it was 55 degrees, being probably way more dramatic than I needed to be.
No,
but
that
still.
wind was blowing crazy yesterday, so I understand why.
Well, Tim Hasselback will join us in 1 hour. We'll get his thoughts on some of the moves around the NFL that have gone down over the last week. But I want to start here because this has been the biggest buzz in Nashville over the last few days. Now, we know Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks, they host the Move the Sticks podcast on the NFL Network. And Daniel Jeremiah dropped a very interesting tidbit on the podcast last week. This was Daniel Jeremiah.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I'll be shocked if the Arizona Cardinals take a player at the third position.
Can I give you the team that I've been told to keep an eye on that's exploring this and looking into this? Again, this is just people around the league who said do not sleep on numero 11, the Tennessee Titans.
Ooh.
The two teams to keep an eye on where the trade-ups were the Raiders and the Titans. Don't sleep on. And then we talked about the Raiders a bunch. We've talked about maybe Seattle at 5. I haven't heard a lot of buzz about Tennessee at 11. That would be an interesting one.
Okay, so don't sleep on number 11, the Titans moving up to number 3. And I'm sure by now you've either heard that clip or you've heard some of the rumblings about the Titans exploring the number 3 overall pick. And it's something that we've all discussed. And we've talked about, okay, you trade up to 3. Who would be available? Realistically, probably Anthony Richardson or Will Levis. We've discussed, is that a good fit for the Titans? We've discussed what the Titans would have to give up in order to move up to number 3 and what you would get out of that 3rd overall pick. Is that worth what you would have to give up to trade up to that 3rd overall pick? But what we haven't touched on yet is how realistic do we really think it is that the Titans actually make that move? Because Daniel Jeremiah said they're exploring it. Taylor Lewan tweeted at Daniel Jeremiah and said, hey, how realistic is this? What would they have to give up, so on and so forth. Daniel Jeremiah said, hey, look, I just said they were exploring. Mm-hmm. That's all, nothing more. How realistic do we really think it is?
Well, it's not real high, right? We know that the chances of actually doing this are quite low. And like we said yesterday, you could take this all the way up till literally minutes before your pick, before that 3rd pick, before you decide to dive in there. But exploring is what you do at this time of the year, right? You should be exploring what would it take to go down to 15. What let's explore if we moved up to 7. Who'd be there at 7? There's everything that you want to do right now as you build your network, especially as a new GM. So I think you have to take this. It's fun sports radio thing, and it would be a big, big thing if they moved up to 3. But we do have to keep it in perspective, right? It's one guy who's hearing some stuff, but again, you can be hearing a lot of things, but it is just exploring. And he's had a lot of attention. We've played that clip I don't know how many times. Mm-hmm. I'm sure his phone's ringing. Taylor Lewan obviously reached out to him, right?
Doing podcast research.
What do you mean here? But it's it's not like 4 or 5 other people have said, oh yeah, I'm hearing the same thing. It's just really Daniel Jeremiah on the island.
Yeah, it is. I think, this time of year, there's always going to be rumblings about positions that teams are in. Are they willing to move up? Are they willing to move back? We're going to hear more and more of it closer we get to the draft day. And then obviously on draft day, there may be some movement as well that we hear about. So, you should expect it from a team like the Titans because they are, whether you want to call it a rebuild, reset, remodel, whatever you want to call it. This
Whatever
team is
R word
exactly,
you want to use.
This team is in transition, and they need players at key positions. So when
Daniel Jeremiah.
I combine both his names. Daniel Jeremiah, when he comes out and he says, watch the Titans at 11 because they have the potential to move up. Well, he's right because of the needs that this team have. They are in sort of this quasi need of a quarterback. They need one, but they don't this year. But they need one moving forward after this year. So they're in a prime position to either move up in the draft or, stay put and move back because of that need at quarterback. If they didn't have a need at quarterback, they would not be in the conversation of teams moving up in the draft because they figure, if we just need a defensive end or left tackle or cornerback, well, we can possibly get that guy that we're targeting or guys that we're targeting at the 11th spot or even moving back, which I believe they may do anyway. They may look at it from the standpoint of it's too rich for us to move up to the 3rd spot. There are other quarterbacks that we like in this year's draft that we can potentially get if we move back in the 1st round or the top of the 2nd round.
Yeah, and I think, moving up, yes, it would answer a really big looming question for this franchise of what's your plan at quarterback moving forward. But I think it would almost create a whole lot more questions. It'd be great for us because we'd have wonderful talking points for the next few months. It'd be great for this fan base to be excited about the franchise quarterback moving forward. But it would create questions about that quarterback of how are you going to approach his development? Because let's say it's an Anthony Richardson. How are you approaching his development? How are you going to approach the backup quarterback position? Are you going to carry Anthony Richardson and Malik Willis and Ryan Tannehill, and you're going into the season with Malik Willis as your backup quarterback? What is the dynamic going to be like between Ryan Tannehill and Anthony Richardson? How are you going to approach the draft in the next, either the rest of this draft or next year's draft, not having a 1st-round pick? I would say it likely would take at least next year's first-round pick to start.
And that's a problem for me. I just don't like signing up for that if I'm Rand Carthon.
That's the thing is I think that the Titans could be such a wild card this year and probably will be a wild card this year because we don't have any sample size of Rand Carthon. He's a first-time general manager. But I look at it like if Rand Carthon is a first-time general manager, he is a first-time general manager, does he want to make his first move as GM trading your next year's first-round pick and other picks? Probably, I would say, would take this year's first, next year's first, and maybe 2 seconds to trade up for a quarterback that doesn't seem like a for sure thing?
Well, this year's pick, it would only be a swap, so you can't. This year's you can't count it because it'd just be a swap with the 30 and 11.
Yeah.
They take the 11, you take the 30.
Right, that's a lot.
Next year's, I think we got to look at it from this standpoint. Next year's first-round pick, if you have to give up next year's first-round pick and you believe you have your guy, it's worth it. Because you think in your mind, I'm going to have to use that first-round pick anyway next year to get the guy, to potentially get the guy that I want. And we may not be that bad where I'm picking in the top 11, top 12. This team might end up, winning 9 games. So that pushed them further down in the draft, somewhere in the, late teens to 20s. So I don't mind, the Tennessee Titans going into this draft and saying, okay, if we can move up to the 3rd spot, we're giving up our first round next year, and let's just say a 2nd round the year after that or a 3rd round the year after that. Let's just say that. Then I think it's justified if you get the quarterback that you want. It's justified because there's a price to pay to move up. Mm-hmm. Carolina moved up. If they get their quarterback and say 2 years from now, that quarterback turns out to be trending in the right way, it was worth giving that up.
Totally.
Because eventually you're going to have to move up. You don't want to – essentially you don't want to be that bad where you got the number 1 pick. But if you don't get your quarterback, you're going to have to move up eventually in the draft if you're not that bad. So in their eyes, we might as well do it now, get our quarterback that we want, 2-3 years down the line, people are saying it was worth it because you got your franchise quarterback. Titans the same situation. If you have to give up your first round for next year and maybe a second round, if you do indeed get your guy at that third pick and it turns out, in a year, 2 years that it was the right decision, then you say it was worth it, Oh,
absolutely.
So to me, whether you give up a first and a second or, a first next year and whatever, if you feel you have your guy, then it's worth making that move because you may not be in this position ever again. You don't want to be in this position where you're drafting a franchise quarterback this high. You don't.
But that's an if.
Yeah.
And that's the most important if you find your guy, if that is your guy. Because if you leverage the future, if you leverage at least future picks to trade up to number 3, and that's not your guy, and that's Rand Carthon's first big major move as GM, that's not a great way to start your tenure in Tennessee. It's not a great way to start your tenure and as an NFL general manager.
He can't be scared of that. If everybody's on board, Mike Vrabel, Amy,
the collective.
Right.
If they all are on board to drafting this specific guy or two, then you got to
trust yourself.
You got to trust yourself.
If that's your evaluation,
yeah, exactly.
If you think
that's
this
everybody's
is the
evaluation, then you move up and you get it. But I'm gonna tell you this: if indeed they do move up to that third pick, and they get their guy, whether it's C.J. Stroud or Anthony Richardson, one of those top 4 guys, Malik Willis will not be here. He won't. Not because I don't think they would have the time to develop him the way he needs to be developed, because he essentially will be the third quarterback. All your time will be spent developing that guy, your franchise guy. Not to say that Malik wouldn't get developed, but develop for what? A backup role?
That also is where Rand Carthon's eyes are coming in. What is his evaluation of Malik Willis?
Yeah.
Where does he think he could be? Does he think down the road, 2 or 3 years, he could turn into a good quarterback? Do they have the patience to wait that long? This comes back to the whole thing about developing quarterbacks. I think they should have a spot for a third quarterback to develop the position. It's so important to the good of the game. We need to develop quarterbacks in our game. If I'm a football guy, I would be voting for that. GMs, scouts, like everybody would agree. So
there are
let's
so many
create it.
average
Force
at
teams
best
to
quarterbacks.
Yes, there's not enough quarterbacks to go around, so let's develop guys like Malik Willis. He needs more time.
But if you're drafting a guy,
then it's it. That's it. He's out of the mix.
If you're drafting Anthony Richardson or Hendon Hooker, then those are the guys that are going to be you look at as being your franchise quarterback. You're not looking at Malik Willis as being a franchise quarterback. You're not even looking at him as being your backup, because if anything happens to Ryan Tannehill, you don't want to have to throw in Anthony Richardson, and then you don't want to look at your third quarterback and figure he's not ready either. So what do? You draft Anthony Richardson if indeed that's the route, or Hendon Hooker, and you get you a veteran behind those guys so they can develop, even if Ryan Tannehill gets hurt. Because to me, if you throw Malik Willis in there again, you're going to end up seeing the same thing, possibly.
And that's what they want to avoid.
Exactly.
But coming up next, we remember Mike Tannenbaum's mock draft, how I think we were all on the floor from some of the picks that he made. This one might be even more of a doozy with what this mock draft projects the Titans to do. And we will get into that coming up next. And, of course, your thoughts, 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025-1063, The Game.
Every Wednesday at 8:30. Join Robbie and Rexrode for The Choice is Yours.
2 sports questions, 2 non-sports questions.
They'll answer a couple of questions about life and sports. The Choice is Yours is built by Jarrett Companies. You have a choice. So when you have a need for site and utility work, fire protection, concrete and asphalt services, the choice is simple. It's Jarrett Companies. For more, visit JarrettCompaniesInc.com. The choice is yours. Wednesdays at 8:30 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
All right, let's tell you about Lee Company, 615-567-1000 or LeeCompany.com. The coverage for the Nashville Predators continues tonight. It is an ESPN televised game, so if you want to hear the team announcers tonight, you got to hear it right here on 102.5 The Game. Max Hurst will start the coverage at 6 o'clock. Predators and the Vegas Golden Knights at 7 with Pete Weber and Hal Gill. So, Lee Company also has your home's needs taken care of, and at work. If you're sitting there at work right now, you got a maintenance issue, don't be afraid right now to call Lee Company. And if you're in the middle of something, you just want to make an online appointment, if that's your thing, no problem. LeeCompany.com. Make the online appointment. Then you can get your work done so you can get home and watch the Predators game. Lee Company, proud sponsor of the Nashville Predators. Let their decades of expertise go to work for you.
Get a great deal on one of the most versatile tractors in the industry, the Kubota L, which is part of Kubota's tractor lineup rated #1 in durability and owner experience. Stop by Krebs Kubota today to bring home select L Series equipment for $0 down. 0% APR for up to 72 months, plus save up to $800. Now through June 30th, see Krebs Kubota or go to KubotaUSA.com for more details. Krebs Kubota, Middle Tennessee's preferred equipment dealer. Columbia, Franklin, and Murfreesboro. Online at KrebsKubota.com.
20 years ago, when Genesis Diamonds came to Nashville, this was one of the most expensive cities in America for diamond jewelry. Our radical approach and no middleman pricing changed that forever. And now we're doing it again, this time with lab-grown diamonds. We were shocked to find out what the other mall stores and the other big radio advertisers were charging. They sell their platinum 4-carat VS2 lab-grown earrings for $15,720. We sell them for $6,900. Their 3.08-carat lab-grown round diamond with G-Color VS2 clarity is $10,045. We sell it for $5,900. Looks like they might be going back to the old ways. If they're charging this much on lab-grown diamonds, kind of makes you wonder what else they're selling at the same outrageous markup. Nashville, we are not going backwards. At Genesis Diamonds, our non-commissioned trusted advisors are here to give you all the information with details you can trust and prices you can count on. Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Looking for a career with purpose or have that passion for youth development? Boys and Girls Clubs of Middle Tennessee provides a safe place where youth gain the tools to learn, lead, and reach their full potential. And that starts with you, offering competitive pay and free after-school care for employees. Learn more at bgcmt.org.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
What if you could do business without busy work? With Ramp, you can. Ramp is the future of finance with smart automation, corporate cards, and spend management. Just imagine, no more expense reports or shuffling wrinkled receipts. No more slogging through invoices or getting surprised by unexpected charges. Just your business's big idea with smart spend controls, automation that crushes busy work, and real-time insights so you can make it happen. In other words, Ramp completely reimagined finance to make it work for your business. Get set up, issue corporate cards, and start making payments in less than 15 minutes. See how Ramp does finance. Join today and get $250 just for signing up. Just go to ramp.com/offer. That's ramp.com/offer to get $250 for signing up. That's ramp.com/offer.
Want to weigh in on the conversation?
It's a brain booster.
Slide into our DMs. Or just text or call at 615-737-1025. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Having some fun in the midday.
Yeah, it's awesome.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
What are you hearing about the number 3 overall pick? And what do you think about Move the Sticks' report of Tennessee potentially being in there?
So, first of all, I have not yet heard specifically that Tennessee is going to move, is poised to move. I'm 100% sure they are making phone calls because every team makes phone calls. And I will say this. My friend Daniel Jeremiah, usually when he says something, there is plenty of reason behind it. Like, he is not a rumor guy usually, and he's very, very connected. So usually when he says things, except if it's about the Padres, usually he knows. Tennessee would seem to make sense for a possible team to trade up. They have Ryan Tannehill on, a deal for another year. He is getting up in age. Obviously has not been at his top, I would say, the last year. Them being in the quarterback world would make sense. They were last year, took a quarterback in the 3rd round.
There you go. That was Ian Rappaport on the Pat McAfee show earlier this week, and he said, "Look, I mean, the Titans aren't tied to Tannehill beyond next year. It would make sense if they want to move up to the 3rd overall pick, but it is talking season, and it's season of calling around and season of dipping your toes in the water." But there's a very interesting mock draft that just came out just a few minutes ago, and this is from 33rd Team. And so this is a kind of a media outlet made up of former players, former coaches, a lot of people that are plugged into the NFL. And this mock draft has the Titans doing exactly what we've been discussing over the past couple of days, moving up to number 3. So in this mock draft, obviously Carolina takes number 1. They have Carolina taking Bryce Young at number 2. Here's a kicker. Houston Texans taking Anthony Richardson at number 2. Titans trading up to number 3. Now, before I even get into the pick, this is what the mock draft has Tennessee giving up for the number 3 overall pick. This year's 1, this year's 2, this year's 3, this year's 5, and next year's 2nd round pick. So your 2022 first, 2nd, 3rd, 5th, and 5th round picks plus 2024 2nd round pick. To take, drumroll please, Will Levis.
What's their thinking behind
Seriously?
that? In other words, you would pass on Stroud.
CJ Stroud in this mock draft is going 4th to the Indianapolis Colts.
Okay, so do they have an angle on that? I mean, I'm always curious. Like the three of us could put together a fun mock draft and have a lot of fun story things, but obviously we would have no basis. No, like you said, I've never heard of this before, but if it's a collaboration of former players, football people that know people, I'm just wondering where that's coming from.
Yeah, it's something like that. It's too far-fetched for me. Mm-hmm. And I'm with Willie. We've thrown together like 3 or 4 mock drafts. Let's put those aside and let's put together this special.
This Fantasyland
mock draft, Fantasyland. Let's just throw all this together without even taking into account some things you may have heard from other GMs, coaches, or talking heads or whatnot. This is basically, what you are thinking in your mind that could throw a monkey wrench in everything. If this happens, this is what the mock draft will look like, and how would it affect, teams after the 5th pick? So I can't. Stroud going, what was it, 4th?
4.
Yeah, I can't see that happening.
Well, and if that is going to happen, it makes me wonder what would happen if you just sat there at 11. There's a chance that one of these guys would fall to 11 without you having to trade anywhere.
Possibly.
Yeah.
And the justification here on this mock draft is the Titans move up from number 11 and number 3 to fill their big quarterback need. The Titans give up 11, 41, 72, and 147 to go along with the 2nd round pick in 2024. Will Levis will be a good fit in this city and with this team. The Titans feel like they're a quarterback away from being contenders in the AFC. There's nothing in there.
Contenders in the AFC.
Okay. Say that again. 1.
It would be number 11, your 1st round pick, your 2nd round pick, your 3rd round pick, your 5th round pick, and your 2024 2nd. So you're giving up
for Will
5
Levis?
Picks for Will Levis.
Yeah, that person's drinking a lot of that good juice. Drinking a lot of that good juice.
Okay, well, let's flip it. Let's say it's for Stroud. Let's say you see that Stroud's available at 3.
And you're moving up to 3?
Yeah.
11th, you're swapping picks. 2nd, I'm not giving up all of these picks this year. I'm not giving up you swapping, that's not really giving up. You're just swapping. But a 2nd, a 3rd, and a 5th of this year, I'm not giving up that much.
That's half of your picks in this year's draft.
I'm not giving up that much this year. Now, if they want a 2nd this year, a 3rd next year, or a 2nd next year, and a 5th, then okay, we can talk. But I'm not giving up essentially half of my draft in 2023 as a new GM to move up to the 3rd spot.
Especially to get Will Levis.
Yeah, to get Will Levis. No,
when CJ Stroud is on the board, absolutely not.
That's just too much. Too rich for my blood.
I think of it in terms of not what we think of these quarterbacks, but what do you think is worth moving up to 8 spots? Like, I think it's interesting, this formula. They have it not having to give up a first-round pick next year, right? That's the formula they're coming with. So if you didn't give up a first, how would you make up for it? Well, they're saying second, third, fifth, plus a second. So that's the equivalent. But I think that's where the wheeling and dealing, that's where all the phone calls come in. If you're actually exploring this, is, all right, what am I willing to give up? And who do I think is worth it, right? It's got to be the guy. I'm sure they're going to have differing opinions on all of these quarterbacks that are moving up the charts. And you also, in the back of your mind, too, have to say, is it possible one of these guys falls to 11 to where I don't have to do all this and I still get a quarterback that I like? That's where you really have to try to get your intelligence, out there. Get your spies, get your people trying to get as much information as you can. And you can't know, but there's also going to be, I think, between now and the draft, a dozen reports where somebody floats a story to a Schefter, a Jeremiah, a Rappaport, whoever, and they want to get some things going, right? They want to get something going in the media, and it may be completely a hoax, right? Or just to try to throw people off track of what they're really thinking. And that goes on.
That's
right?
one important thing to remember is it's also lying season. It's talking season. It's gossip season. It's lying season.
You don't think the Cardinals are trying to drum up as much action as they can for that pick?
Absolutely,
they're trying to get
do.
everybody to call them and ask them what would you give up for that pick?
It's basically 3-card Molly. It's just like I'm just trying to get you to look one way.
He knows he's got his quarterback, so he knows people would cover that pick. So hey, I want my phone to ring. Let's get it going.
And I think too, if it does fall like this, and this is a big if, I don't project this happening, but if Anthony Richardson gets taken number 2 or number 1, where you'll have one of the Bryce Young or CJ Strouds dropping to 3. You don't think the price is going to absolutely skyrocket for that number 3 pick if Arizona doesn't deal the number 3 overall pick before draft day? I think if this happens and Arizona is going to make a game day decision, a draft day decision, you're not giving up this year's first, second, swapping first, second, third, fifth, and next year's second. You're giving up multiple firsts because the asking price is going to be through the roof. The Colts are going to see a Bryce Young or a CJ Stroud available, and they are going to be in the mix for it. The Raiders, the Bucks, all of these quarterback-needy teams seeing one of the best quarterbacks, or at least who's evaluated as one of the best quarterbacks in this year's draft, being available at number 3, and Arizona's going to say, keep them coming. Bring the offers in. It's going to skyrocket. And even this is a little bit too rich for my blood, not to mention how much the price will go up on draft day. I'm not interested in giving up that many picks. I'm also not interested in passing on C.J. Stroud to get Will Levis. And you might be saying, well, why not? Why not Will Levis? Well, in Football Morning in America, Peter King kind of broke down some of the evaluations around the league of Will Levis, and we'll get into that coming up next. And, of course, your thoughts. Again, in this mock draft on 33rdteam.com, they mock the Titans trading up to the number 3 overall pick and taking Will Levis over C.J. Stroud. Just absolutely wild. We'll get your thoughts on it coming up next. It's Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
When you want all the
Going in and the score. Blast the score. He risks one, they score.
and don't forget the
Oh, what a stop. Sliding across to make the save. Backhander, nice stop.
when all you want is Smashville. We have you covered. Hear every Predators game right here. We are your home for Smashville. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Do you have a VA loan? In this housing market, homeowners with VA loans have access to a ton of instant cash. Hey, Willie Donick here. Do you need cash to pay off credit cards and other high-interest loans? How does a check for 80 or 90 grand sound right now? Loan Pronto is helping veterans every day get the money they need with a quick and easy zero-cost cash-out refi with zero closing costs. With a VA loan, it's really cool because you can access up to 100% of your home's value. That's 100%. Use that money to pay off credit cards, home equity equity lines, car loans. Consolidate all your payments into one check per month and close in 2 weeks. Most homeowners who do this end up cutting their overall monthly payments by $800. And Loan Pronto's all-digital process makes it fast and easy. They're doing loans with super low APRs, and they love working with veterans. Call now. See what your options are. Call Loan Pronto, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
Calling a criminal defense lawyer or a divorce lawyer, you may think it's the worst day of your life. It doesn't have to be. If you have quality, competent representation who can guide you through a complex system, we can do that for you. Despite if you've been arrested for a DUI or a robbery charge, whether or not you're going through a divorce or a post-divorce, or demanding your fundamental constitutional right to parent your children. 615-604-6263. AmandaJGentry.com.
When you want live and local,
if they were just better at the offensive line,
you can be a contender in the AFC again.
They've had more winning seasons than not. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game has you covered. Looking for some national programming?
Why do I want to get a running back like that 5 more years? The AFC now is so deep at quarterback.
Check out 94.9 The Fan. Nashville's home for all things sports is 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and 94.9 The Fan.
Hey Nashville, it's Max Kellerman, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. Hey, tune in for Nashville Sounds Baseball tonight at 6:45 p.m. on 94.9 The Fan. The Sounds have their first road series against the Memphis Redbirds, the AAA affiliate of the St. Louis Cardinals. Sounds Baseball on 94.9 The Fan, presented by 312 Pizza, Farm Bureau Health Plans, and Family Leisure. We're out here at Pete and Terry's Tavern. Predators taking on the Vegas Golden Knights tonight. So in this mock draft from 33rdteam.com, and I'm going to be honest with everybody, I had never heard of that before today. But it's a collection of former players, former GMs, former coaches, NFL insiders, who all contribute to creating content for this website.
Are there any names that are on there, like examples
of authors?
Yeah, like you said, I mean, it sounds to me like this could be a good group.
Rondé Barber, Laverius Coles, Matt Castle, Leonard Fournette, Wayne
Matt
Corbett.
Castle. So you got one former Titan in there.
Eddie George.
Eddie George is in there?
Yeah. Greg Jennings. Who's on their roster. I don't know what the roster means, but, you know.
I've seen Trey Wingo doing some stuff with them as well.
Interesting. So I'm just curious, how did they come up with, like, who like, there's got to be a committee. Like, there's a million guys. It can't be. So how did they come up with a second, third, and a fifth, and a second? Like, I wonder how that process works as they put together a mock draft that says, okay, well, let's have the Titans move up to 3. Mm-hmm. What would be the trade? Like, I wonder which people.
Real good. They got some pretty, Charles Davis, that was one of their contributors.
Okay.
Dean Blandino.
Yeah.
So they have some guys
legit
and girls.
Guys.
Yeah, legit.
I would say, I guess they're looking at former drafts where somebody may have traded up from 10, 11, 12-ish area, moving up to 3 or 4-ish area, what it would take, how valuable that pick could be.
I just think
the whole phenomenon of mock drafts makes me laugh because you have this group, right, that's doing the same thing that some kid in his basement
he and his buddies are doing.
Right.
It could be the same thing as like a bracket.
I mean, right. Yeah. It very much could be.
Right.
But this, to me, it's, every draft is different. It has its own unique sort of how it works itself out. Because every year, whether it be, mock drafts from 5 different people or 10 different people, or it's just, us talking, through what's going on, it changes like that. Like the minute one guy gets drafted that nobody even talked about, then it just changes the whole landscape of the first round. So,
like Hendon Hooker is a great one. I'm sure there's divided philosophies. Mm-hmm. Certain teams probably feel a certain way on him. It just takes the one team that loves him, and like you said, all of a sudden that changes the whole complexion of the first round. right?
It's the same thing with the
right.
49ers when they traded up to 3 overall to get their quarterback. Everyone thought it was going to be Mac Jones. They're taking Mac Jones. They take Trey Lance, which was kind of a curveball. Mac Jones gets pushed down in the mid-first round of the Patriots, and then the rest is history. That's all it really takes. But this 33rd team mock draft has the Titans trading up to number 3 and taking Will Levis for 5 draft picks, 4 in this year's draft and 1 second-round pick next year. And the craziest thing about it is they have them taking Will Levis over C.J. Stroud. They mocked C.J. Stroud to the Colts at number 4. And Jim Irsay is probably looking at this and saying, woohoo, we can get C.J. Stroud at number 4.
All right. Do what you need to do. What was the trade? What did the 49ers give up to move up to get Trey Lance?
3 first-round picks, I think.
And how many spots did they move up?
Started. I don't remember it. So that would have been the 2021 draft. The 49ers in 2020. Well, maybe they didn't move up that much because the 49ers didn't have a great 2020 season. I don't remember how many picks they moved up, but I do remember it was 3 first-round picks.
I think there's kind of a benchmark that you could look at, right, as to what it would take to move up. But I'm curious, like, if they'd have just waited till their pick, would Trey Lance have been sitting there for them? Could they have done this without trading up?
Is that a risk you're willing to take?
I'm just wondering. Because as it's turned out, here we are, fast forward.
Well,
he hasn't really made any impact at all. They've still won, but not because of that trade.
Because of their final pick in the draft.
They dealt the 29th pick in 22 and the 28th pick in 2023 to move up to number 12 to the number 3 in 2021 draft. So they gave up a lot of picks.
They gave up
move up
two
Trey
firsts.
Lance. Yeah, two first-round picks.
Well, 3 firsts if you want to add in that
if you want
year.
to add in, yeah.
So technically
So
3.
they swapped.
They swapped
so
and then
it's
2 additional
Two additional
picks.
firsts. Okay. And has that been good for the 49ers as we sit here today? No.
I mean, that specific pick, no, but you could also argue, well, they've been in the NFC Championship game, whether it's with that pick or not.
I know. So it's not because of him.
Right. But my thing about Will Levis, if the Titans want to trade up to number 3 and they find they feel so confident that that's their quarterback of the future, then fine. I don't think it's going to happen, but if that's what the Titans want to do, then you answer a big question about your team. You fill a big hole in your team moving forward. But this is on Football Morning in America, Peter King's column that came out on Pro Football Talk, and he was asked about the first overall pick, the quarterbacks that could go first overall, and he mentions Will Levis. So he talks about how he asked two scouts and then 1 coach in the NFL about their evaluation of Will Levis. And his evaluation of Will Levis said that he was more of a second-round grade. The coach said that he wasn't sold on Will Levis, and he believes he deserves a second-round grade. You can't trade, and of course that's one coach's opinion, but you can't trade 5 picks to move up to number 3 overall and take a quarterback that this coach thinks has a second-round grade.
And is he the only coach that thinks that?
Exactly.
That's what I would want to know.
that.
That's why I think it's great that you're vetting this. But let's just take, for example, Andrew Luck. Would any coach have said, yeah, I got a second-round grade on Andrew Luck? You know what I mean? Like some quarterbacks are absolutely first-round grade, unanimous. I think there's mixed reviews on Levis. There's definitely mixed reviews on Richardson. Definitely mixed reviews on Hendon Hooker.
Yeah.
Right? So I agree with that. To me, if you got a lot of mixed reviews, how can you give up that many assets to move up to get a guy like that? I'm not on board with that.
I think in regards to Hendon Hooker, I think there are 2 things, and they're obvious things, that are, making GMs or head coaches sort of, he goes from being a first rounder to possibly a second or third round. Let's just say that range. I think a lot of it has to do with, one, you talk about all the time, Willie, his age. Him being 25, potentially 26. I think he may be 26 during the season.
And remember, Levis is a little bit older, too.
Yeah, Levis is older. And then the injury he sustained this season. But I think beside that, if you look at what Hendon Hooker has been able to do over the last year and a half, 2 years, I think there are more people that are thinking he's more of a first rounder than he would be a second or a third rounder because he has first round talent, but you can't overlook well, he has to have a year rehab, and then he will. I think he turns 26 sometime during the season or early next year. So if that is indeed, I think those are the two things that are really holding him like in that space of, we don't know, he can go as high as, let's just say 11 to the Titans, or as low as a late second round. I wouldn't say third round. I'd be surprised if he got outside the third round, but a late second round pick.
Hendon Hooker.
Levis, by the way, will be 24 before the season starts.
Mhm.
So he's 23 now. He turns 24 in June. Hooker will turn 26 in January. So he'll spend the season as a 25-year-old. So this, I would say, is his 25-year-old season coming up.
But you would look at Hendon Hooker and say his second contract, almost the entirety of it, is going to be played in his 30s. And that's kind of a dice that you're going to have to figure out what you want to do with him.
You got to factor that in to your evaluation.
Well, if you draft him in the second round, you will get him. He would play under that first contract in his 20s. You would sign that second contract right in his late 20s, and he would play it into his probably early 30s, mid to early 30s. So I don't even think really that's a problem. If he progresses the way you think he will, and he becomes a franchise quarterback, I don't think that would be necessarily a huge problem, because these quarterbacks are playing longer now.
And even with the age in the injury, based off of everything that I've seen with my own two eyes watching those two, and everything I've heard about those two throughout the draft process, I'd rather take Hendon Hooker over Will Levis, and you're not going to have to trade up to number 3 overall to go get Hendon Hooker. I mean, and this also is in Football Morning in America. He asked Todd McShay and Daniel Jeremiah, of course, ESPN, NFL Network, the main draft guys. They each have Will Levis ranked 4th of 4 between C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, and Will Levis. They both have Will Levis number 4. This coach has Will Levis as a second-round grade. I have no interest in that. And then there's been the rumors of Will Levis having really bad interviews. I don't know how much of that is true. I don't know how much of that has just been thrown around. But those things matter. Those interviews matter, especially for that position. So if you are going to trade away half of your draft and your second round next year to find your quarterback of the future, he needs to be a guy that, to Willy's point, seems like a little bit more of a sure thing than maybe a second-round pick.
Which is why, ultimately, I'm not holding my breath that they're going to do this. They're actually going to do this.
To that third pick?
Yeah. I'm not thinking.
I think it will, if it does happen, it will be day of after Carolina picks. I think if Carolina chooses to go with Anthony Richardson, then I think Marcus is
who by the way, if we're talking age,
exactly.
he is 20.
Yeah.
He hasn't turned 21 yet.
He's a baby.
He
can't even celebrate with champagne on draft night.
Next month.
Exactly.
He turns 21. You're right. He hasn't even
he can't go to the bar. Legally, he can't drink.
Yeah.
But if he gets drafted at number 1, I think now the store is open to make moves, to make transitions. Who wants to get in that number 3 spot? Because you got an opportunity to get a potential day 1 starter in C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young. And if the Titans do move up to number 1, then what do they do with Ryan Tannehill? Because now you got a quarterback, if they draft Richardson, you got 2 quarterbacks that everybody predicts will be day 1 starters.
No way they're taking.
So
they're trading up to number 1.
No. I'm saying if Richardson goes number 1, you have C.J. Stroud and you have Bryce Young sitting there. You're going to get one of the 2.
Yeah.
So and many are predicting those guys as being day 1 starters. So the Titans, if you move up to number 3, you got to do something with Ryan Tannehill. Because if you draft one of these 2 guys, everybody is expecting them to be day 1 starters. It's not a sit and wait like an Anthony Richardson or Will Levis or a Hendon Hooker. No, you found you a quarterback that can start day 1.
Let's get your thoughts on it. I see your phones. We are right to those coming up next. 615-737-1025. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. 1025-1063 The Game.
The crowd is standing on its feet. It's in the hole! It's in the hole!
Join 1025 The Game for the second annual Music City Celebrity Golf Tournament, benefiting Souls for Souls, June 7th at Hermitage Golf Course. Put your team together and come play with athletes, musicians, and other local celebs.
Be the ball.
Support a great cause and have loads of fun. Plus, you'll have the chance to win awesome prizes. Sign up to play, sponsor, or donate at theGameNashville.com/golf.
Tools of the Game, brought to you by Northern Tool and Equipment. Now that you've taken on the big job, doesn't mean you have to settle for big box. Northern Tool helps with the little things that make the biggest difference. From pressure washers to power tools and pallet jacks to push carts, Northern Tool and Equipment has what you need to get the job done.
The team at Mercedes-Benz of Music City have done it again. Here's Edwin Vickery to explain.
4-time recipient of Best of the Best. Less than 10% of the dealers in the country receive this award. How did you do it? We say culture eats strategy for lunch, because we can strategize all we want, but unless you have the right culture and chemistry in the dealership, it will not work.
Live the dream at Mercedes-Benz of Music City, mbofmc.com.
Your ankles, feet, and knees help you walk, run, jump, and climb. Because of the stress placed on these joints, arthritis may occur, and lower limb injuries are common injuries treated by Houston Clinic Orthopedics. Their specially trained orthopedics can treat your pain non-surgically with non-inflammatory medications to reduce swelling and orthotics that support the pads, arch, or ankle joint. Your doctor may recommend a brace, custom shoes, or physical therapy as part of your treatment. Visit tn.houston.com to book an appointment for a physician to discuss your lifestyle, your goals, and determine the best treatment to fit your needs.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
This is Jim Mitchell at Mr. Transmission in Madison. Many of you care about a cure for cystic fibrosis. I care a lot and support the Saturday, May 6th golf tournament at Hendersonville's beautiful Country Hill Golf Course. It's the CureForOurFriends.org 9th annual golf tournament for cystic fibrosis. Tee off at 7:30 a.m. and 1 p.m. on May the 6th. Lots of prizes and sports stars, lunch and dinner provided for each tee time. Sign up at CureForOurFriends.org. That's CureForOurFriends.org.
They combine hard-hitting journalism.
Titans have actually made a move, finalizing a one-year deal.
Strong-willed opinions.
No, I disagree. No, I totally disagree with that.
And sometimes, some old man takes...
Don't want those cooked carrots that are 5 days old.
To create the perfect morning show, they are Robbie and Rexrode.
The job starts in the morning.
Mornings from 6 to 9 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
What do you think of him and basically just the top of this class of receivers and where they slot into this draft?
Yeah, we've been spoiled at receivers the last, 3 or 4 years. You got some of the best receivers in the league coming out of these recent drafts, like immediately. You get Justin Jefferson, you get your Jamar Chases, you get your Jalen Waddles. All these guys coming out in the last couple of years, and there's no one of those guys in the draft. I don't think that there ends up being a top 10 receiver that's taken in this draft, which I don't think that's happened in the last 3 or 4 years. And so, I don't know that this is a draft where I would be giddy about getting a first-round receiver. But like you mentioned, if you got a pick in that second or third round, even early in day 3, you can still find a guy who can be an impact player. Maybe he's not a number 1 for you, but he could be a really good number 2, number 3.
That was Cameron Wolf on Robbie and Rexrode this morning. And hey, Preds fans, hang out tonight before the Preds game at the Superbook Lounge and Landshark Bar and Grill, Margaritaville on Broadway with 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. Place your bets with Superbook and enjoy great food and drink specials, plus enter for a chance to win a pair of tickets to an upcoming Preds home game. We're out here at Pete and Terry's Tavern ahead of the Predators match up with the Vegas Golden Knights. Again, 33rdteam.com has the Titans trading up in their most recent mock draft to number 3 overall and taking Will Levis with C.J. Stroud still on the board. Unless we have thoughts, to the phones?
To the phone.
Bring it.
Phone lines driven by Wilson County Hyundai.com. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you have a thought, Wes in Clarksville texts in and said, I would rather have Hendon Hooker before Will Levis. That's what I said. I mean, Hooker seems like a little bit more of a sure thing
Hooker
to me.
where? In the second round or
and that's
at 11?
The thing. I'm not trading up to number 3 to draft Hendon Hooker when I can have Hendon Hooker at 25, or if I can even have potentially Hendon Hooker in the second round.
See, I think that's really intriguing. That's where you get into it. That's why I don't think you should put all your eggs in one basket. I think you should be willing to me, you take several paths and say, whatever comes my way, that's what we're going to go with. Even if it involves not drafting a quarterback. If that's how it falls, right? You don't know how it's going to fall. Like you said, Derek, it takes one team to throw a monkey wrench into the whole thing. All of a sudden, whoa, we didn't know that was going to happen.
Right.
And then all your plans are washed out if you thought, well, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this. We're making the trade a month before the draft. All of this stuff. So I just think it's good to strategize and look at a number of different pathways that could be successful.
You don't want to put
one of them would be that. Like Hooker falls to you in the second round. Hey, he's still sitting around here. That's what they did with Willis last year. He was still sitting there in round 3. A lot of people thought he would be a first-round pick. He wasn't. They picked him in the 3rd round, and here we are.
I don't remember who did it last year. Maybe Daniel Jeremiah. If it wasn't him, then I feel bad for incriminating him in this way. Someone had Malik Willis going number 1 overall last year.
Number 1 overall?
Number 1 overall. So just keep in mind how wacky
we need not
and weird
listen to that
things
guy
can be.
ever again. Whoever had him at number 1.
But there were a lot that thought
girl.
he was going to go in the 1st round, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
In the 1st round somewhere.
But, I mean, but that's how it is. There's always, that one guy that, especially last year, because last year's draft, I think they were fishing for a guy that could potentially be in the 1st round or that top 10 pick. They were reaching for guys, and they had to because there was no clear-cut top 5 or top 10 guy. Hell, there was no clear-cut top 15 or 20 guy.
Oh, clear-cut first-round guy even, yeah.
I think this year is different. I think you have arguably 2 clear-cut guys in Shroud and Young, and then you have a guy that is a clear-cut first, but there are a few saying, is he a top 10 pick, or is he 11 through 15, 11 through 20, because he's a project. And then the other guys, Will Levis, are they bottom of the 1st round, 2nd round, Hendon Hooker, bottom of the 1st round, 2nd round. So there's not much grasping at straws here because there's 2 guys that are going to go within the first 3 picks. We know that. We understand that. But then the other ones are, will they get in the top 5, Richardson? Mm-hmm. Will they get in the top, the bottom half, 11 through 15 or 11 through whatever? That's Will Levis, Hendon Hooker, and some other quarterback that you want to throw in there.
The quarterback's projected to go 3rd, 4th, 5th round, yeah.
Absolutely.
Glenn from Greenbrier checks in. Says, I wouldn't trust any coach who gives Levis a 2nd-round grade. I'm a Levis and Kentucky fan, but I wouldn't give up those picks for him. Maybe the truth with Will Levis is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
You're not trading 5 picks to go get Will Levis, but maybe Will Levis isn't a 2nd-round pick. Maybe Will Levis is just a mid-round, 1st-round quarterback who can be an average starter in the league. I don't know what Will Levis is going to become, but I think that the idea that Will Levis has been seen or projected as high as number 1 overall and has been evaluated as low as a 2nd-round pick, usually the truth is somewhere in the middle. Somebody likely is going to overpick a quarterback in this year's draft. That feels inevitable.
Is he a 1st-round pick? I mean, that's up to teams to decide that, whether he's a 1st-round pick. you can look at his talent and what he's done over the course of the last 2 seasons and say, hey, listen, if you put players around him, he will excel. But then you also can look at it from the standpoint of he can't carry a team. He can't make guys better, because when he had opportunity to in Kentucky his last year after guys had left, he didn't elevate that team. Now, some of it could be because of injury. He dealt with a lot of injury last year, but he still wasn't able to elevate that Kentucky team as he did the previous years when he had the guys that were able to, be playmakers for him. So I guess you can sort of look at it from 2 sides of the coin. Either if you are a Will Levis fan, you will say he can do it. He has all the tools. He's big, strong, can throw the football. He can work on his accuracy just like the other quarterbacks. But if you are a con for Will Levis, you're going to bring up, well, his junior year to his senior was much different. He dealt with injury his last season. So you're going to pick at all these things that happened during his last year rather than look at the good things that happened during the season prior.
I think that, probably so. And LD from McMinnville Texan says, didn't Mel Kiper have Levis as his number 1 ranked quarterback?
At one point he did.
A couple months ago, Mel Kiper was taking his pants off for Will Levis. He could not stop talking. Nobody wants to see that. He loved Will Levis. I don't know if he's kind of come down from that Will Levis high recently or not. But, the truth of the matter is, it's Will Levis, everything that I have heard and everything that I've seen is not worth trading up for. And if I think that, Willie thinks that, Derek thinks that, I see all of you in the text line thinking that, Rand Carthon is smarter than all of us. Rand Carthon's not going to make that move.
Let me ask you guys this. Has anybody ever seen someone do research on the good and the bad of Mel Kiper, who's been doing this for forever? Like, he's been doing it longer than anybody else.
Yes, I
I'd
have.
love to see a study of where he's been right, where he's been wrong. Like, anybody who does it for as long as he has is going to have some really good home runs and a lot of strikeouts, probably more strikeouts than home runs. But I just wonder, how has he done over the years with some of these profound things?
I did a full breakdown, and this was last year. Yes.
Okay.
I haven't done it yet to evaluate last year's draft, and I will do that this week.
Okay.
But I looked at Dane Brugler, Daniel Jeremiah, Mel Kiper, Todd McShay, and Peter King, and I looked at all of their final mock drafts of the year over the last 4 years, so from 2019 to 2021. And of those 5, Mel Kiper was the worst. Got the fewest from my point system. Had the lowest number of points, but Peter King and Dane Brugler were the best.
Okay.
Well, there you go.
Okay.
It's I guess scouts and GMs rather talk to those 2 guys.
Yeah, the Mel Kiper taking his
yeah.
pants off for Will Levis over here. Let's see.
I can't unsee that. That image is in my mind. This is very sad.
Apologies to you and everybody else who has that mental image. We will chat with Tim Hasselbeck coming up next. We'll get his thoughts on this. ESPN NFL analyst. It's Caroline Willy D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Every day we are live and local.
They played tough. They came back and they still lost.
And your source for Nashville sports.
Yes, you want to have a fire sale, but who's going to buy those players?
We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Grand slams, no-hitters, double plays, they're all back, and there's no better place to get in on the MLB action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can step up to the plate with a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Joe Rexrode here to let you know. All you got to do is go to FanDuel.com/Joe102. You sign up, you place your first bet, you get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win. By the way, I was the one who did call Aaron Judge with a home run on opening day. If you want to do a long-term bet, I know this is a radical idea, but Dodgers this year are winning the whole thing, okay? That's my tip for you. Of course, you can also build a same-game parlay with a favorite matchup of the day. A lot of ways you can go. Don't miss your chance. Get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. FanDuel.com/Joe102 to sign up. FanDuel is an official partner of Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball trademarks used with permission. Must be 21 or older, present in Tennessee. First sign the runaway wager only. $10 deposit required. Refund issue is now withdrawable. Bonus bets that expire in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line 800-889-9789.
Mom, we're out of potato chips. Teenagers. They'll eat you out of house and home, kind of like health insurance, which can take a big bite out of the family budget. Fortunately, with Farm Bureau Health Plan's Core Choice coverage, we can save $3,600 a year compared to the leading competitor. And we've got better coverage with a lower premium, lower deductible, free telehealth visits, and access to one of the largest networks available.
Can we order pizza?
Visit FBHP.com or your local Farm Bureau office today.
312 Pizza Company is a proud sponsor of Nashville Sounds Baseball on 102.5 The Game.
Middle Tennessee, you can count on an award-winning service team for all your home maintenance and improvement needs. Lee Company, we're A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau and trusted by thousands of homeowners in our community. Our team is ready to assist with all your home maintenance projects, heating and air conditioning, plumbing, electrical, appliance service, and more. Experience the convenience of calling one phone number for all your home maintenance needs. Call Lee Company today at 615-567-1000 or visit leecompany.com.
Sorry, but we actually have a wait list for our Monstera.
Shaw's greenhouse is really bringing in the green.
We can't keep snake plants in stock.
She needs a construction manager to build on her roots and grow.
We could add a whole section for ferns, and here we'd have dahlias, and more dahlias.
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Now, your Game Center update.
This is Nick Keyser. The Yukon Huskies are national champions for the 5th time in program history after taking down San Diego State 76-59. Yukon now has 5 championships overall since 1999. Adama Sanogo was named the tournament's most outstanding player. And the Nashville Predators are back in action tonight this evening against the Vegas Golden Knights. Nashville fell 5-1 last night in Dallas. General Manager David Poyle joined Robbie and Rexrode and made a comment about turning their attention to Vegas.
In Vegas tonight was first place in their division, so they say the hits keep on coming. So we've got our work really cut out for us in these last 6 games to have an opportunity or a chance to make the playoffs.
And the Nashville Sounds are on the road this week to kick off their first roadie of the season against the Memphis Redbirds. You can catch the action starting at 6:45 this evening on our sister station, 94.9 The Fan. You're listening to 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Nashville's exclusive home for the Nashville Predators. 102.5 and 106.3.
A gutty performance.
Do your job.
And the Tigers regain the lead.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Covering your teams and the news of the day.
Ladies and gentlemen.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
Who is pleasant to listen to.
With Caroline Fenton, Willie Donick, and former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason.
You are hands down my favorite radio personalities of all time.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
With no further ado,
Caroline, Willie, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. We are live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Game Studios, streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. Our video streaming is brought to you by Superbook Sports out here at Pete and Terry's Tavern. And joining us now is Tim Hasselbeck, ESPN NFL analyst. Now, Tim, Daniel Jeremiah's report on the Move the Sticks podcast has sent this city into a tailspin. He said that the Titans are exploring potentially trading up to the 3rd overall pick. 1, how do you think realistic that is? And 2, how smart do you think that would be if Rand Carthon made that decision to move up from 11 to 3?
I saw what Daniel Jeremiah said. And first, let me say, I like him a lot. I think he does a very good job. I saw that and I thought, oh, wow, here we go. This is going to get some people going. I just don't see it happening. First off, it's a long way to go, from 11 all the way to 3. And so what you would have to give up to do that, especially considering so many people feel like, the quarterbacks that potentially are going, what many believe in the top 5, top 10, but maybe even as high as, the top 7. I think what you would have to give up to move that far is so significant. And then the other thing I would say is this. I think you get outside the top 2 prospects. I think you then get into this conversation about Levis and Richardson. And listen, I think, and I've said this to you guys before as well, barring the ACL injury, like I don't know how much better of a prospect you should feel like those players are over Hendon Hooker. It just seems like a lot to go up and get somebody who I guess would be the 3rd best quarterback in this draft.
Tim Hasselbeck is with us. What is your take on Will Levis? Very mixed reviews on him. Draft stock rising, draft stock falling. What do you make of Will Levis, and what have you heard about him around the league?
Yeah, so here's what I think about Levis. I think that he has certain traits that you absolutely love your quarterback to have. So he obviously has a remarkable arm, and it's special, and so that alone is going to kind of put him in a class that's different than other quarterbacks. And then I think the other thing that you have to, consider with him is that he is a tough, gritty, competitive guy who is a probably better athlete than has been talked about in this draft process. And those are traits that teams typically rally around and like. So there's all of that. But then there's also times when you would watch him where you say, man, for a guy that has played as much football as he's played, I think he's got 38 college starts. For a guy that's played as much football as he's played, that seems like a head-scratching decision. Like, why would he do that? And so I think in the evaluation of Levis, the ability to sit down with him and try to figure out, okay, why did you do that here, I think will clear up a lot for teams, or kind of make them feel like, you know what, I don't know how ready he is to come in and play right away.
We'll talk with Tim Hasselbeck, ESPN NFL analyst. Now, Tim, if we just talked about these quarterbacks, the 3 quarterbacks, not Hendon Hooker, but Will Levis, Shroud, and Bryce Young. However, those 2 guys go, Bryce Young Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud, it's yet to be determined. We figure both of them are being the top 2 picks. But if you're looking at a guy like Hendon Hooker, if he doesn't get injured, where do you think he falls in his quarterback mix? Do you think he's closer to a C.J. Stroud and a Bryce Young, or more so in a line of Anthony Richardson or Will Levis?
Yeah, I think that Stroud and Young are kind of in a class of their own when you're looking at this year's draft class. Like, I think those guys are clearly the top 2 guys. Then I think that there's some separation with the next group of quarterbacks. And look, I asked the question, months ago about, well, wait a second, why do we seem to be saying, all right, there's these top 2, then there's this next 2, meaning Richardson and Levis, and then, oh, by the way, hey, check out in the second round, maybe, you'll see Hendon Hooker. And that just didn't, and I think I said this to you guys, called a bunch of Hendon Hooker's games when he was at Virginia Tech, then obviously followed what he did at Tennessee. I feel like I know, in some ways more about him than I know about some other prospects who I don't see in college as they're getting ready to come out in the draft. So to answer your question directly, I think if he did not have the ACL injury, I think that he would be in that next group of quarterbacks, which he kind of is anyway. But I think that people would view him as the most ready out of the next 3. Because one thing about Hooker that I think is, probably underappreciated is that he's really good with the ball in terms of protecting the football. And if there's something that you can say about Levis, it's, it didn't always take care of the football. If there's something you can say about Richardson is, and only 13 starts, there's kind of too much evidence of not protecting the football. So I think Hooker, in many accounts, would be viewed as the best of those 3.
Now, looking at this draft, minus the quarterbacks, who do you think is the best player in this draft? Is it a Jalen Carter? Is it a Will Allen Jr.? Is it, Paris Johnson, the big tackle? Who do you believe is the number 1 guy in this year's draft?
Yeah, I will say this. I don't because of my role, don't get into like, hey, I'm studying every defensive end and every defensive tackle. But Will Anderson, when you watched Alabama play, I mean, it just looked like he was ready to play in the NFL years ago. And D-Mase, you know this. Like, you look at some guys when they come in, and it's at any position where you look at him and you're like, yep, okay. Like, he looks the part. He walks in like he's already as strong as, kind of the guys that are at the top of his position. He's already, doing things that other players need to develop and be able to do. And it just, like, he has that feel to me.
Now, if the Titans, that number 3 pick is still there, Tim, and say, Stroud and Bryce Young are gone, and the Titans do indeed move up to that number 3 pick. Not to say that they are, but I'm saying if they, in the perfect world, they move up to that number 3 pick, and they draft a Anthony Richardson, do you think Malik Willis's days here are numbered?
Yes. Here's what I would say is that, look, at that point, if a quarterback gets drafted that high, and really if a quarterback gets drafted in the top 10, in some ways it really won't be all that different than when my brother was the quarterback for the Titans. Jake Locker was drafted inside the top 10, and, after one season at the longest, he's going to be the starting quarterback. And so when that happens, look, your path to the field totally changes. And because at that point, that quarterback is going to get pretty much every snap that he can get. And so, yeah, I think at that point, the dynamic of that quarterback room shifts to, all right, we are doing everything in our power to get this player, and the example you gave, Anthony Richardson, to play as well as he can possibly play. And I think having a young developmental prospect as somebody behind him probably doesn't allow for that to happen.
More with Tim Hasselbeck coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, and hey, Predators fans, don't miss tomorrow night's Smashville live show at Brewhouse South in Cool Springs starting at 6 o'clock. You can see your Predators star players up close and personal and get some autographs and pictures. Preds player guests tomorrow night are Mark Jankowski and Philip Tomasino. Smashville Live is brought to you by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, Little Harpeth Beer, Superbook Sports, and Dulce Vita Tequila, pure and simple. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
We are your home for every big pass.
Kevin Harvick takes over the race lead.
Big wreck.
Trouble turn 2. One car is around and hard into the outside wall.
And big win.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. has won the Daytona 500.
Yeah! Woo!
Catch every lap of NASCAR on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Attention all fire and safety line experts. Middle Tennessee's fastest growing fire protection company is looking for experienced service technicians, designers, and sprinkler system experts like you. Tired of working for a large corporate employer? Work for a company where you're more than just a number. Jarrett Fire Protection is owned and operated by Nashville natives and wants to invite you to grow with their amazing team.
Hi, I'm Jason Jarrett, owner of Jarrett Companies. I'm looking to hire experienced sprinkler experts and will offer a sign-on bonus of up to $5,000 for certified professionals. In addition to our great benefits that include a 401k match, PTO, and top pay with annual bonuses, we will also provide you with the top-of-the-line tools, trucks, and equipment that you need to grow your career. Our customer base is large and business is booming with many opportunities for advancement. Give us a call or go online to jarrettfire.com and apply today to become a member of our family and protect our community. That's JARRETT fire.com. Jarrett Companies, where we are above and beyond industry standards.
Hey, it's Jared for Hiller. Sometimes replacing equipment in your home can be overlooked until something breaks, but there's actually big problems that can come from outdated old vintage HVAC systems. Older systems require more maintenance and results in higher utility bills. This month during Hiller's Vintage Showdown, they're giving away a free HVAC system to the owner of the oldest unit. It's easy to enter. Just go online to happyhiller.com and submit a picture of your old unit. Everybody wins with a trade-in credit and 0% interest financing for up to 48 months on replacement. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Call the Happy Face Truck today.
In this market, you'll find Fisher Investments is different than other money managers.
Different how? Aren't we all just looking for the hottest stocks?
Nope. We use diversified strategies to position our clients' portfolios for their long-term goals.
You don't just provide cookie-cutter portfolios?
No, we tailor our clients' portfolios to their goals and needs.
But you still sell investments that generate high commissions for you, right?
No, we don't sell commission-based products. We're a fiduciary, the highest standard of care for a financial advisor. It means we're obligated to act in our clients' best interest.
So when do you make more money? Only when your clients make more money?
Yep, we have one transparent management fee structured, so we do better when our clients do better.
Sounds like you really look out for your clients.
We do, because our priority is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement. That might be why most of our clients come from other money managers. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you switch to us. Fisher Investments. Clearly different money management.
Investments in securities involve the risk of loss.
Want to see our smiling faces? You can watch us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live.
We are good to go.
Presented by Superbook Sports, voted #1 sportsbook in Vegas. Having some fun in the midday.
Okay, that's really fun.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
It's a good source of energy because it's live.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3. The Game. We're out here at Pete and Terry's Tavern ahead of the Predators matchup with the Vegas Golden Knights. ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck joins us now.
Tim, I want to ask you, we've talked a lot about the age of these quarterbacks when you're evaluating them. And I know as a minor league baseball player, if I had the stats that I had in my 2 years as a minor league player when I was 18 or 19 coming out of high school, I probably would have gotten another year or two to see if it would have worked itself out. But as a guy who played 4 years of college, I didn't get it done early, and so they were like, we're moving on. We're going to get the next guy in here, right? So I'm curious how that works when you're looking at – you just had a really interesting observation when you're looking at Levis or somebody like that saying, okay, he shouldn't be making this mistake at this stage of his college career. So when you're looking at Richardson – it's kind of a double-edged sword because he can't go to the minor leagues, right, to work things out.
Correct. No, but he could stay in college longer. And I think that, because his physical ability, the, temptation of saying, hey, look, I'm going to come out because people are going to fall in love with that, and I'm probably going to get drafted, you end up doing that. And so while that might be the right move in the short term, I think that you could look at somebody like Trey Lance and say, well, it might not be the best thing in the long term. And I know Lance probably isn't a perfect example because injuries have been the primary reason for things not working out quickly for him. But, yeah, I mean, that's, I think, something that you have to weigh is, look, I may go in the top 10 because I'm physically superior than most prospects, but am I going to be ready to play? Like, I would make the argument that Trey Lance was not ready to play. One, he hadn't started very long. COVID was part of his college story. That was an issue. I think you could say a similar thing for someone like Mark Sanchez. You could say a similar thing for someone like Sam Darnold. And so I think there's that element of, look, you are strictly drafting on potential with some of these young prospects that are really physically talented but don't have a lot of snaps under their belt. On the flip side of it, just for full disclosure, I was relatively critical of Kenny Pickett coming out because I was looking at Kenny Pickett saying, look, he's older than all of the quarterbacks that were drafted in the first round the year prior to him coming out. Like, he should dominate college football. He's basically been a pro football player in college football the last 2 seasons. And so, I think you have to have that type of context, which I think is the example you're given with, minor league baseball. And so I think that's one of the reasons why evaluating the quarterback position, exactly what you're talking about in terms of experience and potential, in terms of physical ability, the fact that quarterbacks don't all have to be 6'4", they don't all have to have the strongest arm. And so I think there's just all of these characteristics that could fit, in a different box. It runs the gamut. And because of that, I think that's why so many people get the quarterback position wrong.
Well, let's use an example of a lot of these things we're discussing. You, I'm sure, did a heavy evaluation of Malik Willis last year. Here we are a year later, and we're talking a lot about what the Titans might be looking for here. But what do you see is next for Malik Willis? Like, what do you do if you're the Titans? Where do you try to reserve a spot for him, knowing how many teams like to keep only 2 quarterbacks?
Yeah, look, my evaluation of Malik Willis was this. He was an A-plus runner. Like, he was, I think the statistic was he broke more tackles his last year of college football than any other player. And so just to put that in perspective, that includes Kenneth Walker, who had a great year for the Seahawks. That includes Breece Hall, who had that great year for the Jets before he took ball that last year that they were playing. And so he was an A-plus runner. And as a thrower, look, he had the ability to make all the throws, but he really wasn't a developed passer. And, like, that was the story on him coming out. Now, he was forced to play early because of injury, and it basically showed he had a long way to go. So where do you go from here? You try to see if he can develop as a passer. I mean, that's because the physical ability is first-round ability as a runner and as, in terms of arm strength. But in terms of seeing the passing game, he's behind. And so you do whatever you can to try to get him to come along. And unfortunately, because he fell to the, outside the first round and into the third round, you then are in a situation where they could reset and draft another quarterback that high or higher the following year.
I'm curious your thoughts on where it goes from here with Lamar Jackson. We know, over time you could feel differently about things a month, 2 months from now, all of these things. Is there a person, what would be your strategy if you're the Ravens to try to mend the fence? If your goal at the end is to have Lamar Jackson playing for you, and I think it has been all along, I could be wrong, but is there a person who could be sort of the peacemaker to say, hey, Lamar, this is just business. We love you. We want you. Let's work this out.
Yeah, I mean, I think it probably is a combination of the owner, Steve Bisciotti, and John Harbaugh. And I think, you basically say, look, here's the thing. Like, we drafted you in the first round for a reason. We've always believed in you. When people said that, he's not a quarterback, we said, no, he is a quarterback. We're taking him in the first round. And so, and we've built this around you. Like, we have a 300-pound fullback for a reason because of your style of play. And look, we've tried at receiver, and we've gotten it wrong sometimes. So we're going to continue to try to get receiver right. But, we also were not going to go off of Deshaun Watson's contract. It was such an outlier. It doesn't make any sense. If you want a fully guaranteed contract, look, we'll sign you to a fully guaranteed contract, but it's not going to be for more money fully guaranteed than some of these other players. And so I think you go that route. And then, look, at some point it comes back to Lamar Jackson to say, look, I'm costing myself money. Yes, I'm a football player, but I also need to be a businessman. And, people are starting to put the stuff out there now of, Josh Allen, who's that same draft class, since signing that extension that Josh Allen signed, which is the exact same time that Lamar could have signed an extension, Josh Allen has made tens of millions of dollars more than Lamar Jackson. And he'll never get that money back. And so, at some point, the principle is great, but this is also how he makes his living.
With that being said, Tim, do you think sometimes these players, in the world that we live in, that everything is so accessible and we see everything and we think we know everything about everyone's contract, that they're looking at other leagues, not even necessarily their league. They're looking at other leagues and they're screaming, well, they're getting guaranteed money, so why can't I get guaranteed money? Do you think too many guys are doing that in regards to football? Because whether you like it or not, owners are not giving long-term guarantee money. They will give you a short-term guarantee money, but when you're talking the money that Lamar wants or these quarterbacks are getting now, they're not guaranteeing 5 years, $250 million or $300 million. They're just not doing it, regardless of what other leagues are doing.
Yeah, and D-Mase, I think you're exactly right. And that's like me saying, well, shoot, D-Mase just sold his house in that neighborhood for that much money, me too. And they're like, nah, man, you don't live in his neighborhood. His neighborhood, like that's what they're doing when they're looking at these other sports. Like that's not. It's like no. It doesn't. It's not a comp that makes sense. And see, that's where I think you start to get into, guys that like Lamar is doing is representing himself. And I'm not saying Lamar Jackson is not a smart guy. I think he's proved that he is smart. But I also think that it's important to be around people that are experts in doing what they do, and which is why people use agents. And no one likes writing that check to an agent for his commission. But at the same time, their job exists for a reason. And many of them do a good job for a reason. They know the market. They know other contracts. In some cases, they've negotiated with the people you're negotiating with and negotiated big contracts with them. And so there is value there. And, you can argue about, what percentage an agent should be paid, but I don't think you can argue the fact that there's value in having an agent who knows the market, who knows how to negotiate, who's negotiated with the people that you're trying to negotiate in terms of getting it.
Tim Hasselbeck is with us. Tim, what do you make of Jalen Carter saying he is only going to meet with teams with a top 10 pick?
Yeah, I think he probably knows that he's not going to fall outside the top 10, and because of, maybe some of the things that, I guess we would just call them off the field concerns about, what he was involved with, and answering those questions rather than letting that run like wildfire. I think, meeting with the teams that he feels like he needs to meet with and explaining, his situation and involvement in that stuff to them directly is probably what he and truthfully probably his agent and maybe advice that he's getting from Alabama as well, from Georgia as well, like that's what he needs to do. And look, I think in some cases it's kind of one of those scenarios where, and I know D-Mase had heard this, be who you can afford to be. And I think that's pretty much what he's doing.
Tim Hasselbeck, ESPN NFL analyst. Appreciate you for joining us. As always, we will chat with you next week.
Yeah, see you guys.
All right, thanks, Tim. Coming up next, the Predators are in action tonight, taking on the Vegas Golden Knights. Rough loss 5-1 in Dallas last night, but a quick turnaround. And what some of the national writers have to say about the Nashville Predators from now until the end of the season. And do we really think it's realistic? We'll get into that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
This is Phil Tomasino, and this is Smashville.
Cousins put it in front of the score. Tomasino lost it in. 2-0 Nashville.
This is the flagship of the Nashville Predators Radio Network, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Last year, Jerry was all like, hey, I'm going to go to the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix this year. Then he didn't. Instead, he decided to weed his garden. And he missed an August weekend of IndyCar racing, supertruck racing, even night racing, all through downtown Nashville. Sure, old Jer had a lot of weeds to pull, but Jerry also totally sucks. Hey, don't suck like Jerry. Get your tickets at MusicCityGP.com for August 4th through 6th. The Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. Get amped.
What if you could be credit card debt-free in 10 days and save as much as $1,000 a month? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. Hey, Willie Donick here. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low monthly payment. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days, and a $50,000 loan would only cost you around $400 a month. Use that money to pay off high-interest credit cards or do a home improvement. You can access up to 90% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need an appraisal. Even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Stop the madness and say no to 24% interest fees. Call Loan Pronto today. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
What if you could do business without busy work? With Ramp, you can.
Ramp is the future of finance with smart automation, corporate cards, and spend management. Just imagine, no more expense reports or shuffling wrinkled receipts. No more slogging through invoices or getting surprised by unexpected charges. Just your business's big idea with smart spend controls, automation that crushes busy work, and real-time insights so you can make it happen. In other words, Ramp completely reimagined finance to make it work for your business. Get set up, issue corporate cards, and start making payments in less than 15 minutes. See how Ramp does finance. Join today and get $250 just for signing up. Just go to ramp.com/offer. That's ramp.com/offer to get $250 for signing up. That's ramp.com/offer.
This is for the men who never settle, the ones who believe only quitters end a game and a tie, the type of guys who choose the bar with the biggest TVs to overcompensate for theirs at home. This is the Lodge mentality. This is Twin Peaks.
Twin Peaks has you covered for Lent. Try the fish and chips bundled with our 22-ounce draft for a steal on Fridays, or reel in one of our other seafood options like blackened fish tacos, shrimp Caesar, and char-grilled salmon.
102.5 and 106.3, The Game is live and local.
And now, let's meet the starting lineups.
Robbie and Rexrode, 6 to 9.
If you are talking about a team, that's building a roster.
Chase and Michelle, 9 to 11.
He's still under contract.
It's not always X's and O's.
Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase, 11 to 2.
Trades, free agents.
Let's get it going. I think this is a good hire.
And Stillman and Company, 2 to 6.
I can give you one of the best coaches in the league.
And don't forget, we're your home for all things Nashville.
He scored!
Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3, The Game.
Hey Nashville, it's Mike Greenberg, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
How do you, what lessons do you take from this one when you've got to go face Vegas at home tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, we know our recipe to win. I think one, it starts with our penalty discipline. Two, our special teams have to be better, and then I think we've got to execute. You know, we had some good looks, I thought, early in the game to keep it. You know, and a lot of times when you can score early in the game, it helps your team get momentum, particularly if, you know, the other team scores first. To get one back, I think, helps. So just take some lessons out of that. And I think the other big part of it is not to beat ourselves where we have opportunities to put pucks behind their D to get in the offensive zone and not give a team, you know, opportunities to be able to come back at you and half ice the game from your lack of puck play.
There you go. That was Preds head coach John Hines after the game last night. Preds fall to the Dallas Stars 5-1 on the road, but a quick turnaround tonight hosting the Vegas Golden Knights. We're out here at Pete and Terry's Tavern. So I was looking at ESPN.com, and Tim Cavanaugh wrote that tonight is a must-win game for the Predators. And I have a little bit of a problem with that for a couple of reasons. Must win to make the playoffs. Fine. Okay, if you want to look at it like that the Predators are, that you absolutely positively have to win this game to make the playoffs, fine. But MoneyPuck.com gives the Predators a 1.5% chance to even make the playoffs. So I think we kind of throw this term must-win game around just a little bit too much. This isn't, the Predators are right on the brink and it all comes down to tonight. No, it's a long shot anyways. So I don't agree with labeling it a must-win game just because it seems like too much of a long shot at this point.
I've never really liked the must-win thing because really every game is must-win when you get down to it. It's not like, this game doesn't matter. But I do think now, I think Kavanaugh's point, I'm looking at his article. First of all, why is he writing this article? Tonight's game is being televised where? On ESPN.
Yes.
So he's trying to create some drama, create a storyline. There's no question that if the Predators are going to pull a miracle here, and that's what we're looking at right now, realistically, they probably cannot lose more than one more game when you get down to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've got 6 games left. Realistically, winning 5 out of 6 would give them a shot, right? Because you got head-to-head with Winnipeg and Calgary. Calgary, to their credit, has righted the ship a little bit, and they're in this mix too. So you got to pass 2 teams if you're the Predators. But really the issue is the manpower right now.
Right.
That's what they're up against. Last night was an example. I thought they fought very hard, and they were sort of weaving their web at how they've hung in there against the top teams. How did they hang in there against Boston? They hung in there, stayed scoreless. UC Saros made saves. They played hard. They come up with a goal to take the lead. Last night, they gave up an early goal, but they're still hanging around. Second period, they're down 1-0, and in the first 10 minutes, they got a power play. They had some great looks. They had 3 shots on goal, and they had a great cross-ice pass to Cody Glass, who's got an open net, and he hits the crossbar. If that goes in, it's 1-1, and you're like, hey, got life here. But then about halfway through the second period, Dallas, they found their game a little bit more. I think Dallas, you look at if you're scouting the Predators and you're Dallas, at the beginning of the year, you're like, well, they used to have Matthias Ekholm and all these guys. Roman Josi. Where's Roman Josi? Oh, he's hurt? Like, how could you not mentally a little bit say, who are these guys? Right? We're going to kill these guys. We're just going to roll out here. We should take these guys, no problem.
Never heard
and
these
then
people.
This team is scrapping and hanging around halfway through the game. And so either you fall into the trap if you're the Stars and you underestimate for the 60 minutes, or you say, hey, look, we got to pick it up. These guys are out scrapping us. These guys are hanging in here. We're better than these guys. And that's kind of what happened. They flexed, and Nashville just didn't have answers. And credit the Stars. They had a good crowd last night. They had a chance to clinch a playoff berth. They're still playing for something, right? They're trying to play for a division championship, and they were just the better team. And they should be the better team at this point. The Predators, half of their lineup, I'm not talking about just playing 5 or 6 games for Milwaukee. About half of their lineup has played a ton of games for Milwaukee this year. So it's just a tall order right now for the Preds.
Well, I mean, it's one, they lack the manpower that is going to take to beat a Dallas Stars team who is still playing for position in the playoffs. Yeah. So they come out with a different type of energy than possibly the Nashville Predators. Not to say that they don't come out with the energy to win a hockey game, but Dallas looks at it from one end, from one perspective, and the Preds look at it from another perspective. Now, as far as a must-win, if this was the same team that we saw prior to the trade deadline, then I would say, this is a must-win. You gotta win that game. This is a must. These are must-wins moving forward. But this isn't. This is a team since March 4th. They've won 8. They've won 8 games, lost 9. So they're basically right around a 500 team. This is a team that, after the trade deadline, I don't think many people thought that they would get 8 wins. They thought that, okay, here we go. It's a rebuild, so we're going to give them some grace. As long as they go out and be competitive, show that fire, then we're okay. But this team came out, and they did just that, but they were winning games. So you can't look at them now and say, okay, since they are in a position to potentially make a playoff game, that every game from here on out is a must-win. That's unfair to these young guys. They're out here just playing. Do they want to go to the playoffs? Absolutely they want to go to the playoffs. But the likelihood of them making the playoffs is very slim. Even if they win 5 out of the next 6, they still would end up with 13 wins in that span, and is that good enough to get them into the playoffs?
Yeah, I think, too, again, the thing that is the most significant about what they're doing night in and night out right now. Last night was an example. You have in the top 6 positions, right, at forward, Novak, Evangelista, Tomasino, Glass, guys that you're really looking at and saying, these are our prospects. How do we look in the next few years? So Dallas last night sees these guys. They're not going to scare them off the bat, but they've been productive, right? But after a while, it's like, okay, look, we got to shut down Novak. We got to shut down Glass. Evangelista's been causing trouble for other teams. What do we do? They're getting their attention, right? That's to their credit. But now they got to figure out when they're getting attention, they're not sneaking up on guys. Can they still find ways to make plays? And not just the night here, night there, but can they be consistent week in, week out, year in, year out, right? Can they keep getting better? That's the next question for those guys. So it's the same thing tonight. Vegas is playing for the number 1 seed in the West. They're playing to make sure they hold off the Oilers for a division championship. So they have motivation. They played last night, so they're probably going to be a little weary. So it'll be the same thing. If they sleepwalk against the Predators, what John Hines has to hope for is that his team can scrap their way and be in it and have a chance to win. That would be what your goal is for tonight. What I like about John Hines, it's very much like Mike Vrabel. Does not use the injuries, the trades as an excuse, right? He mentions it. He's aware of it. But he says, look, we're still trying to find formulas to win games. Mike Vrabel never used the injury rash as an excuse. But it's obvious, right? When you don't have Roman Yossi and you don't have Philip Forsberg, your 4 highest paid players are not in there. Matt Duchene, Ryan Johansson. It takes its toll over time. But you're still trying to fight and claw and scratch. I admire that.
And you bring up, I think, the most important part of all of this, because the 1.5% chance to make the playoffs, combined with the injuries that have been plaguing the Predators over the past couple of months that don't seem incredibly optimistic from now until the end of the season, combined with the gauntlet of a schedule, to me, the evaluation of this Predators team or the direction of this Predators team has less to do with what they do from now until the end of the season and the hopes to make the playoffs, but more so, has Barry Trotz seen enough from John Hines from the trade deadline until now or until the end of the season to bring John Hines back next year? I think that's the most important thing. You all heard me a couple months ago. I was saying, get John Hines out of here. They're not winning enough games. They don't look like a team that's going to be competitive in the playoffs. But I have to give major props to John Hines for how he's been able to keep this team alive from the trade deadline until now. When they hired Barry Trotz to be the general manager of the future, I thought, he's gone. John Hines, Barry Trotz is going to want to bring in his own guy. They're going to move on with the new coach. But what John Hines has done has been really impressive. So I wonder if Barry Trotz feels the same way. And if Barry wants to bring in his own guy next year regardless, I don't blame him. But I do think it's a very intriguing thing to watch moving forward. Has John Hines shown Barry Trotz enough to give himself another year?
I think he has shown that he has the ability to rally young players around one common theme, and that's to win ball games. Regardless of where we sit in the standings, we're going to go out there and we're going to play hard, we're going to play fast, we're going to play physical. We're going to play the type of hockey that wins you, games. We may not win every game, but that's the way we're going to play. So I think he's earned the right to possibly finish out the contract. And, he's earned the right to be in consideration moving forward on, being this team's head coach beyond his last year. Now, a lot of it has to do with, obviously, what they do in the offseason, how they come back off after the offseason, because I look at it from this standpoint. As good as this young team has played, minus the injuries, with the injuries and everything else, I think the expectations, and I mentioned this to you on text, Willie, I think the expectations, they got to be ready for the expectations to be high headed into next season, because people are always going to go back to, look at what they did without their top guns. Look at what they did. Look what they were able to do. Yes, they didn't get in the playoffs, but this team didn't take an about face and go the opposite way. They continued to fight. So if we saw this in them after March, the day after March 4th, then moving forward, we should see even better things, because now they have the experience of being, in the NHL. So there shouldn't be any excuses on, well, we got to wait till this young guy develops. No, he has time to develop, because now he's been, he's played against the top line guys.
I'm curious, with the draft here, there'll be a lot of fun. It's going to be a party downtown. There'll be a lot of people from around the league. Predators have 13 picks in the draft. Of course, none of those guys are going to help next year's team, right? But there's going to be a lot of hype and a lot of fun in the offseason. They cleared cap space. They can do some things. I'm curious where the expectation level will be at the end of the offseason, right? Where do people see them in the grand scheme of things? Because that will, I think, play into where you want to go down the road with John Hines, et cetera. John Hines, I think, has 1 year left on his contract. Yeah. And I agree with you 100%. David Poyle was asked that this morning on Robbie and Rexrode. He gave him a very good evaluation. But it really is about Barry Trotz, who has been sort of embedded with the team. He's been with the team on the road. He's been with the coaches in the meetings. He's observed everything. He's really done an evaluation. Just from where I sit, I do think John Hines and his staff have done a very admirable job putting a winning game plan together each night, giving them the best chance to win each night, given a lot of hardship with the injuries.
Well, let's continue the conversation on the other side, because I think there's a few questions that we need to ask ourselves about John Hines, Barry Trotz, and the future of this Nashville Predators team. We'll get into that coming up next, and of course, your thoughts as well. Have you seen enough from John Hines over the last month or so since the trade deadline for John Hines to come back and be the Nashville Predators head coach next year? Your thoughts coming up next, 615-737-1025. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, and hey, join 1025 The Game for the second annual Music City Celebrity Golf Tournament benefiting Souls for Souls on June 7th at Hermitage Golf Course. Put your team together and come play with athletes, musicians, and other local celebrities to support a great cause and have loads of fun doing it. Plus, you'll have the chance to win awesome prizes, so sign up to play, sponsor, or donate at thegamenashville.com/golf. 1025 1063 The Game.
185! Every team needs a quarterback. 185! Take! That's why we have
Hasselbeck, bootleg, rollout, toss, touchdown.
Tim.
You can run good plays at the right time.
ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck gives his expertise on all things NFL.
You evaluate players, and then you're turning them over to the coaching staff.
Every Tuesday at noon.
At the right time.
With Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase. Tim on 1025 and 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
It's championship week at the Electronic Express Markdown Mania sales event. We've got slam dunk deals in every department, including all 4K TVs, computers and tablets, smart home, headphones, and more. Is it time to update your kitchen? Visit our convenient locations for up to 50% off all your appliance needs in stock and ready to deliver. Plus, get up to 3 years interest-free financing. Sale ends Saturday. Electronic Express. We make it happen.
You want a mower that delivers a quality cut and an exceptional ride. You need the Kubota Z200 series with the new K-Ride comfort system, designed to give you everything you need to glide your way to a perfectly manicured lawn. Visit your local Kubota dealer today.
Visit Coleman Tractor Company, your local Kubota dealer in Clarksville, Nashville, Paris, and White House.
Do you take pride in your work? Do you want to help build Nashville? You need to join Ironworkers Local 492. They build Nashville, working on everything from steel erection on buildings and bridges, plant maintenance, concrete, reinforcing, conveyor work, sheeting, welding, rigging, fence erecting, curtain wall, window wall, and a variety of other specialty work. They provide the best skilled iron workers for contractors and projects in Nashville. If you want to build Nashville, you want to be proud of doing it, visit ironworkers492.org. Join Ironworkers Local 492.
This is Jim Mitchell at Mr. Transmission in Madison. Many of you care about a cure for cystic fibrosis. I care a lot and support the Saturday, May 6th golf tournament at Hendersonville's beautiful Country Hill Golf Course. It's the CureForOurFriends.org 9th annual golf tournament for cystic fibrosis. Tee off at 7:30 a.m. and 1 p.m. on May the 6th. Lots of prizes and sports stars, lunch and dinner provided for each tee time. Sign up at CureForOurFriends.org. That's CureForOurFriends.org.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Nashville's radio version of The Odd Couple.
This number makes more sense. It does not make more sense.
Absolutely. Robbie Stanley and Joe Rexrode are Robbie and Rexrode.
Yay, we win. We don't. We lose. No, I disagree.
Robbie and Rexrode. Mornings from 6 to 9.
If you're good enough, you're good enough. It's absurd.
On 1025 and 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Have having some fun in the midday.
Yeah, that's awesome.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
In terms of John Hines here, not just this season, but especially since the trading deadline, how would you evaluate, the job he's done with this team?
I think excellent. This year in the whole, like during this interview, we're just talking about basically from the trading deadline on and all the younger players. This year has not been a good year, and we can talk about the team and we can talk about individuals and we can talk about living up to expectations. And I think we all fall short in that area, whether we correctly set the expectations or not. That's my job. I felt that based on last year that we should be better, especially with the addition of Niederreiter and McDonough, but that was not the case. And I think the coaches have done a really good job, handling all of the situations, especially I say ups and downs, but maybe a lot more downs. We've had a lot of players that again had career years a year ago that haven't played anywhere near that this year. So that's why we went into made all the trades and where we are. But I think the coaches have handled it well. I think they're right now the thing that stands out to me the most is the improvement of our younger players and the development of our younger players. That's certainly, I should give some kudos to Carl Taylor and the staff down in Milwaukee for that. But I also think our coaches are doing a great job of putting these guys in positions where they can succeed. So.
There you go. That was Preds General Manager David Poile on Robbie and Rexrode this morning. His evaluation of John Hines. Now, I think as we close out the regular season, an important question to ask is John Hines going to be the head coach of this hockey team next year? And I think there's a couple questions that we need to ask ourselves because this is a topic of conversation because of how the Preds have been able to stay in the dance since the trade deadline. But the first question is, with what mindset did Barry Trotz come into Nashville? Did he come in saying, okay, I've seen enough from John Hines. I'm ready to move on from John Hines, and nothing is going to change my mind. I already know who I want to be my coach of the future, and it's not John Hines. Because there's nobody that's more plugged into the hockey coaching world than Barry Trotz is. So how did he approach this job? How is he coming into this general manager position thinking? Is he going into it did he come into it with a completely open mind? Did he come into it thinking or saying, you all show me what I should do, what my first moves should be as general manager? Or was his mind already made up? I think to be able to get this job, I think you have to have a general direction of what you want to do with the team. I think you have to have some of these decisions already made up to prove to the powers that be, the people who are bringing him in as general manager, that, look, I got a plan and I'm ready to take this position on head first. But there has to have to be an element of a little bit of open-mindedness. So that's my question 1A. What was Barry Trotz's mindset coming into this new general manager role? And I don't know the answer to that question. But
I think it has to be just like any other GM, whether it's Rand Carthon or Barry Trotz. You come in, one, with an open mind, but with an open mind of change and how much change is it going to be. And as you start to assess, your roster, you can figure things out. I think the good part about it for Barry Trotz is he's able to sit and watch his team as they're in season. So he's able to get a better understanding of, okay, where I think this team's strengths are and where I think their weaknesses are as far as, players. Rand Carthon, he didn't have that. The season was over with. It was done. So he had to go back and watch film.
Yeah.
Like, now I got to watch film and evaluate these guys. Well, Barry is there. He's in the building. He's going on trips with them. He's in the meeting rooms with them. So not only does he get to evaluate the players, he gets to evaluate the coaching staff.
Yeah.
Like right now as games are being played. So I think that's an advantage for Barry Trotz in a sense.
And, Barry Trotz was asked at the opening press conference about John Hines, and he said, look, from afar, I see a well-coached team. But now I get a chance to be here every day. Now I can really evaluate. Those were his words, and so many, that's the gist of what he said.
Much shorter than what he said, probably.
Yeah. And And since then, you've seen him actually do evaluation, right? And John Hines has said, look, come on in. You're a Stanley Cup winning coach. You coach here for a long time. You know what you're doing. We want your input. We'll show you what we're doing. If you have thoughts, tell us. I think that's been a really smart move by John Hines, is to say, look, I'm an open book here. I want to see what you think. I want you to get a true evaluation. Mm-hmm. And since then, I think it's fair to say the team has overachieved based on everything that has happened. Like, what I would have loved to have seen, what would we be talking about in these couple weeks if they just had Yossi and just pick another guy, if Forsberg had come back. But you have all of these guys out. Injuries are going to happen. Mm-hmm. But like last night, Dallas has one guy that they would otherwise be playing that wasn't in there last night. St. Louis on Saturday, no injuries at all. So it's really hit or miss when the injuries hit you. Mm-hmm. It's just really unfortunate that on top of the 4 guys that you traded, which is going to affect your depth, now you have 8 regular players that are out of the lineup as well. So you talk about digging down deep to Milwaukee to bring up anybody you can. They are down to the last guy, right? So you have to factor that in if you're Barry Trotz. But, look, I can see if you're saying, look, I want to put my stamp on it, I want to go in a different direction, mm-hmm. I could understand that viewpoint too. But I think John Hines has done everything he could to this point to say, look, he's made his case that he should get a chance to start the final year of his contract and say he's the coach of the team. But once again, there's a lot that has to happen, right? There's a whole offseason of what moves they're going to make, who they're going to bring in. How are they going to use the draft capital? They're going to make a big trade some of those draft picks to get a guy that could help them right away. That could raise your expectations. They cleared off a lot of cap space that I think a lot of people who were skeptics didn't think they'd be able to clear out. But because they did, they've got some maneuverability here. Even though the cap isn't going up, a lot of teams are going to be strapped up against that cap ceiling, and there might be players that are available without having to give up much. So there's a lot that will be happening over the offseason.
And I think the other question I have is, from Barry Trotz's point of view, to whom or to what does he maybe look at being the reason why this team before the trade deadline underachieved? And to who or to what is he giving credit to overachieving post-trade deadline? Because Barry Trotz could look at it and say, look, Carl Taylor did a lot of the dirty work, and then John Hines' job was easy because these guys were fully developed. And I don't know if that's the case or not, but I think it's a possibility.
Yeah, Carl Taylor's done an outstanding job at Milwaukee. There's no two ways about it. He's done an excellent job.
Right. So how does Barry Trotz view it? Does he say, this team absolutely has overachieved since the trade deadline with these guys that nobody else in the league has even heard of? So am I going to give more credit to Carl Taylor, and therefore, I feel a little bit more confident moving on from John Hines? That's what I don't know. But there's a sentiment going around, and this, we'll go to your phones, phonelines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. I've heard this before. This texter says, Carl Taylor is the one responsible for having these young guys ready to play, and it's past time he have his opportunity to coach in the NHL. If we don't recognize that, we will lose him to another team. All respect in the world to Carl Taylor. But I don't think that Barry Trotz can make a decision to, let's say, name Carl Taylor as the head coach of the Nashville Predators just so he doesn't lose him. I don't think you can approach it that way. You have to do what you think is best. You can't just take preventative measures because you're so afraid that he's going to go elsewhere. Carl Taylor, to your point, Willie, he's a heck of a coach. He's going to get an opportunity in the NHL, whether it's in Nashville or not.
The good thing about this situation, first of all, John Hines was that guy once upon a time. He was the coach at Scranton Wilkes-Barre, under Mike Sullivan for the Penguins. That's how he got the job to be the head coach of the Devils, right? This happens in the coaching. Barry Trotz was that guy. He was an unknown guy coaching in the AHL, and David Poile said, I like that guy. I'm going to give him a shot here with Nashville. So Barry Trotz has been there. He knows what it's like to coach the AHL team. He knows what it's like to coach an NHL team that is sort of up against it, right? Barry Trotz, he learned through all those early years how to try to claw and scratch when you don't have the best cards in the deck, right? You don't have the upper hand. You don't have aces and kings in your hand. You got 4s and 6s and maybe a jack in there. You're trying to make it work. So I think that's all part of the evaluation process, and we'll see what he thinks at the end of the season. But I do think John Hines has done a fantastic job, really, weathering the storm. But we'll see, what that means as Barry Trotz does his own evaluation.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. The college basketball season came to a conclusion last night. Congratulations to UConn, national champions. But if you thought that maybe basketball was broken this year, Willy has the answer. 3 things that Willy thinks can fix college basketball. That is coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025, 1063, The Game.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
312 Pizza Company is your spot for the best Chicago-style eats right here in Nashville. From thin crust pizza to deep dish pizza to Italian beef sandwiches and Chicago dogs. Doesn't get much better than that. Until now. 312 Pizza Company is now serving up their award-winning pizza by the slice. All day, every day. Don't have time to wait for a full pie? No problem. Get a slice instead. Order a full pie but want a little more? Add another slice. Do it. Honestly, just go get a slice. 312 Pizza Company. Nashville's authentic Chicago pizzeria. Go get a slice.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members of FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
What if you could do business without busy work? With Ramp, you can. Ramp is the future of finance with smart automation, corporate cards, and spend management. Just imagine, no more expense reports or shuffling wrinkled receipts. No more slogging through invoices or getting surprised by unexpected charges. Just your business's big idea with smart spend controls, automation that crushes busy work, and real-time insights so you can make it happen. In other words, Ramp completely reimagined finance to make it work for your business. Get set up, issue corporate cards, and start making payments in less than 15 minutes. See how Ramp does finance. Join today and get $250 just for signing up. Just go to ramp.com/offer. That's ramp.com/offer to get $250 for signing up. That's ramp.com/offer.
Middle Tennessee, you can count on an award-winning service team for all your home maintenance and improvement needs. Lee Company, we're A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau and trusted by thousands of homeowners in our community. Our team is ready to assist with all your home maintenance projects, heating and air conditioning, plumbing, electrical, appliance service, and more. Experience the convenience of calling one phone number for all your home maintenance needs. Call Lee Company today at 615-567-1000 or visit leecompany.com.
Your Game Center update.
This update is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. I'm Nick Keyser. The UConn Huskies took down the San Diego State Aztecs last night 76-59, their 5th national championship since 1999. And Adama Sanogo won the tournament's most outstanding player. And the Nashville Predators are back in action this evening against the Las Vegas Golden Knights. Nashville fell 5-1 last night in Dallas. General Manager David Poyle on the Preds turning their attention to Vegas.
Vegas tonight is first place in their division, so they say the hits keep on coming. So we've got our work really cut out for us in these last 6 games to have an opportunity or a chance to make the playoffs.
And the Nashville Sounds are back in action this week, their first road trip of the season, going down to Memphis to take on the Redbirds. You can catch the action starting tonight at 6:45 p.m. on 94.9 The Fan. This update is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. You're listening to 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Nashville's exclusive home for the Nashville Predators. 1025 and 1063.
A gutty performance.
Do your job.
And the Tigers regain the lead.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Covering your teams and the news of the day.
Ladies and gentlemen.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
Who is pleasant to listen to.
With Caroline Fenton, Willie Donick, and former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason.
You are hands down my favorite radio personalities of all time.
On 1025 and 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
With no further ado,
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game in the Game Nashville app. We're live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Game Studio, streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. Our video streaming is brought to you by Superbook Sports. We're out here at Pete and Terry's Tavern at Bridgestone Arena. The Predators in action tonight, taking on the Vegas Golden Knights. Puck drop at 7 o'clock. We will have all of your pregame coverage starting at 6 o'clock on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. Congratulations to UConn. A very common blowout win from UConn last night in the national title game against San Diego State. We've had a lot of griping about college basketball, not just this season, but over the last few years. Willy Donick has found the way to fix it. Dr. Willy will heal college basketball.
I'm going to try. And let's congratulate UConn.
Yes.
Yeah.
They kept right on going. You guys, I think, picked with your hearts last night.
Not our
hoping,
heads.
Yeah.
Hoping for a great game.
Wanted to see an upset.
Look, I really thought – I went back and watched the game this morning because it was going head-to-head with our game last night in Dallas against the Stars. But, I thought – I saw the final score. I thought, well, that went kind of like I thought. Then I went back and watched the game. I give San Diego State a lot of credit. That's a tough, hard-nosed team that fought to get back in the game. Like they were pushing. They were pushing. They got it close. But at the end of the day, UConn just too many weapons, right? Just too many good players. And that was really the story of their tournament run. From February 18th on, they lost one game. I didn't see the game against Marquette, the Big East championship game. But that's the only team that beat them. Marquette's got to feel pretty good about that, right? The only team that beat UConn in the last, month and a half,
right?
Really. But that was a powerhouse, and they won most of the games by a wide margin. They won every game in the NCAA tournament by a wide margin. So that's a fantastic job.
They made it
not
look
ranked
easy.
in the top 25 before the year started. Not ranked.
They were able to.
Was that just the writer's fault?
Yeah, it could have been a writer's fault. But this is a team that I think as the season went on, they started off 13-0. They hit sort of a slump in the middle of the season, but then they sort of regrouped and picked it, and it all came back together during the tournament. But this was probably, if you've watched that whole tournament, they were probably the most complete team. Whether it's Hawkins from the outside, Sedona, how you pronounce his last name?
Adama Sanogo.
Sanogo
I didn't honestly know
inside.
until the Big East tournament, and I saw him play. I was like, wow.
Yeah, so
Where
they
was
had
he
this
in the wooden
inside,
post?
outside, sort of combination. But if you look at them, they had no weaknesses.
No weaknesses.
Because they made it very difficult for San Diego State to even – they covered the perimeters very well. UConn did. They were forcing San Diego State further and further from the three-point line.
Got nothing easy.
Exactly. Even when they came off the screens, it seemed like they fought through the screens. Now, San Diego State did do a good job in the first half, and I noticed it. They were coming over the screens rather than going underneath the screens, which made it tough for UConn to hit those shots. The minute they went under those screens, it was bad for San Diego State because they would just pull up and hit the three-pointer. But they did a good job at coming over those screens, making it very tough for UConn in the first half. Now, the problem was, while they were stopping UConn and UConn was missing baskets, they were missing baskets on the other end. They went a stretch of 11 minutes, I believe, where they didn't score a point.
Yeah.
And that was all because of UConn's defense, where they kept on pushing them further and further because they knew if they did penetrate the paint, they had those two big guys in the middle that were just stopping everything. So they would have had to play a perfect game, San Diego State, to win that.
And I felt like every time San Diego State tried to make things interesting, UConn just pulled away. I think the closest it got was it was 5 points, and I saw San Diego State make it 59-52, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is the most exciting it's been all night. And then UConn just continued to pull away. That was the story of UConn's tournament. I mean, they won so many games, if not every game, by such a wide margin. And at that level, when we see madness happening week in and week out, day in and day out, for UConn to be so consistent across the board against solid teams. You have to give him credit.
I thought there were a couple of times where if San Diego State could have gotten one more stop, and maybe one more hoop, maybe they could have made UConn nervous, just because UConn hadn't been in a situation where final 5 minutes it's really close, because they had pushed away from just about everybody. But there were two plays that jumped out to me. San Diego State made a run. There was one play where the point guard, Newton, he shoots one from like 30 feet. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
He fires up. It's an absolute brick. It hits the backboard, and you're thinking, man, they really got him nervous here. But Sonogo gets the rebound, goes back up, gets fouled. There was another play where Sonogo tipped one in. It was like a 7-point. They missed the shot, and I'm thinking, boy, San Diego State gets this rebound. You're really going to hear a surge from the crowd. Sonogo tips it in.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was one more play. I think when they did get it to 5, Caroline, they ran the play
They hit a three-pointer
for Hawkins. He comes off the screen, rises up. I mean, the guy's right in his face. They ran him off like 2 screens. The guy did a great job. He weaved through all the screens, still got up and contested it. But Hawkins at 6'5", elevates on the shot. He just knocks it down. That was just too good. Like, what do you do?
Yeah, I just don't think San Diego State had enough. They played as good as UConn allowed them to play, because that defense was stifling it. That defense caused a lot of bad shots. San Diego State played out of control a lot, in the first half, and they played some out of control in the second half. I just don't think UConn was – there was never a moment where I thought UConn may lose this game. Now, did I think it would be close? Yes. But it just seems like UConn was in control of that game. Even when they were missing shots, they relied heavy on their defense to cause San Diego State to miss shots as well. So, to me, San Diego State was they were playing out of control at times. UConn never played out of control. Even while they were missing shots, they never played out of control.
I mean, yeah, UConn is just – I felt like they went under the wire a little bit for being such a dominant team all tournament long. There were so many of the big names, the 1 seeds, the Houstons, the Alabamas of the tournament, that were at the forefront of so much conversation, and UConn just continued to dominate behind the scenes. And they were the better team last night, and they were the better team all tournament long. I had a great time throughout this entire tournament. I really enjoyed it. I feel like at most games that I watched, you couldn't go into it saying, oh, this team's going to win. No, this team's going to win. Because it was so kind of back and forth. But there may be some inherent problems with college basketball. And we will diagnose those problems coming up next. Willy's 3 ways to fix college basketball. We will get into that coming up next tonight, Preds fans. If you want to win tickets to our Lower Bowl Section 102, just text the keyword SUPERBOOK, all one word, to the game text line 615-737-1025, and you will be entered to win. Win with 1025-1063 the game, and you can win with SUPERBOOK.
Want the latest on college football and Nashville sports?
They can be a fully formed model of what they're going to be offensively moving forward.
Join Outkick 360's Chad Withrow every Friday at 5 with Stillman and Company.
You don't know what's going to happen with the roster or the team.
He'll bring opinions and charisma for a full half hour every week.
This is a good lesson about sports and what we think and what actually happens.
Chad Withrow on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, let's talk about Loan Pronto here for just a moment. Loan Pronto wants you to know that if you're in need of some cash, you got bills to pay, you got a project you want to do, try the Express Equity Credit Line. You can close in 7 to 10 days. And, for example, if you take out $50,000, it only costs you around $400 a month to pay it back. And then you take that $50,000 and you attack the way you want to with your financial needs. Home improvement project, knock those credit card bills down to zero. Get rid of those high interest payments that are killing you each month. And you can save money every month with your budget. It's a great way to go. So call Loan Pronto and see if this is for you. 615-499-5780. Stop the madness. Say no to those 24% interest fees that have been picking away at your monthly budget. 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. That's 615-499-5780. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
20 years ago, when Genesis Diamonds came to Nashville, this was one of the most expensive cities in America for diamond jewelry. Our radical approach and no middleman pricing changed that forever. And now we're doing it again, this time with lab-grown diamonds. We were shocked to find out what the other mall stores and the other big radio advertisers were charging. They sell their platinum 4-carat VS2 lab-grown earrings for $15,720. We sell them for $6,900. Their 3.08 carat lab-grown round diamond with G-Color VS2 clarity is $10,045. We sell it for $5,900. Looks like they might be going back to the old ways. If they're charging this much on lab-grown diamonds, kind of makes you wonder what else they're selling at the same outrageous markup. Nashville, we are not going backwards. At Genesis Diamonds, our non-commissioned trusted advisors are here to give you all the information with details you can trust and prices you can count on. Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Spring in and style up with huge savings on top athletic brands at your Dick's Sporting Goods warehouse sales store in Franklin. Stay active this spring with up to 70% off the athletic styles you love. Shop deals on thousands of styles from top athletic apparel and footwear brands like $10 tees, tanks, and shorts for the family, $20 swimwear, $20 golf polos, and running footwear for $60 or less. Find incredible deals and incredible style at your Dick's Sporting Goods warehouse sales store in Franklin at Watson Glen.
Hey, it's Jared. Are you looking to move? If so, do yourself a favor and reach out to my friends at TriStar Moving. You can be assured your move will be stress-free because they've got new utility vans to help with pack jobs to separate your high-value or fragile items from the bulk of your furniture, and their movers are carefully picked and highly trained. No one in the game is doing this. TriStar Moving is raising the standard in the moving industry. When you're ready to move, give them a call. TriStar Moving, 615-640-1219, or online at nationalmoving.org/radio, and tell them Jared Stillman referred you for 10% off. That's TriStar Moving.
Anyone want to tell me what happened?
Did you miss any of today's show?
It's okay. It's fine. Don't worry.
Subscribe to the Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase podcast on Apple, Spotify, and other podcast platforms, or by going to theGameNashville.com.
All right, I'll give it a shot.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Congratulations to UConn taking down San Diego State 76-59, taking home the national championship trophy.
And I didn't get to say this on the air
Yes.
yesterday, but congratulations to LSU.
Thank you very much.
What a
Very proud of
amazing
that
sporting
team.
event that whole tournament was. Wow.
Just such a good weekend for women's basketball.
Enormous audience, by the way, for the women's
9.9 million people watched that game, more than any All-Star game, more than the Orange Bowl, more than the Sugar Bowl. But above all else, I mean, of course, I'm happy for LSU, and of course, I am going to be boasting this and being so obnoxious about it for the foreseeable future. But just a really good weekend and season, I think, for women's basketball. The fact that we talked about women's basketball for an hour yesterday, the fact that that was the conversation on SportsCenter, on First Take, on Get Up, that everyone was talking about it, I think it's a good sign. Sometimes controversy is a good thing.
Yeah, and look, I didn't even think it needed the controversy to capture
Right.
us. We were already captured.
Yeah.
That's why we saw what ended up being the discussion afterwards. But you're right. I think that's the major victory is they had the captive audience. Bigger than it's ever been before.
Absolutely.
But now, let's get to the men's game. Okay, so first, why was it so captivating with the women? You had the superstar powers. You had the personalities. We're missing that a little bit in men's basketball. So this is my first thing, and I'm going to lead with this because I'm not sure what to do. I've been theorizing. I'm trying to figure out how you would do it. But there's a competition committee. You got 360 now Division I schools. We have got to stop the madness. We're only beginning the transfer portal stuff. We're just beginning. And whether you want to be in it or not, like you might sit there as the coach of X school and say, you know what, I like recruiting high school guys. I like building my program. I don't want to play this game. I like doing it the way I've been doing it. Sorry, that's not really an option. Let's look at Belmont down the road. What has been really fun about the Belmont program? You go back to Rick Byrd when Casey Alexander was playing for Rick Byrd, when they were at NAIA. Really good continuity. They transitioned into Division I, kept the same formula. we're developing guys for 4 years. We're finding the style of play that works for us. We're recruiting to that style through high school. Not a ton of transfers, and one here, one there, but it was really good continuity, and you had consistent winning. Now even you get a really good player, he's susceptible to being picked off by a Power 5 guy, a really good player at that league, and that's every team at that level. And you got guys coming back down the other way. Well, how do you replace those players? Well, here's Malik Dia down the street at Vanderbilt, kid from Nashville, sees his pathway sort of blocked. He's not getting the play. He's transferring. So it's just you get pulled in. It's like the Mitchell report when baseball was going through the steroid thing.
Right.
Your choices as a player were to be, hey, look, I don't want to do it, but look, I got XYZ, the guys I'm competing for with a job. They're all doing illegal stuff, so I got to do it. You get pulled in to that magnet. So over time, and it's not going to be next year, it's not going to be the year after, but our conversation with Nick McDevitt, the number of players in the transfer portal is going up every year. How do we incentivize the players and the teams? Can there be a reward for a lack of roster turnover? Because what's good for the game? Like, I'll be honest, I love college basketball. I didn't know who Adama Sanogo was before the season started. Like, we used to love.
They can stay and all this other stuff. My thing is,
like, there's a financial reward for leaving. That's a
fact.
So can there be something that is set up by? I don't know who would do it. This is a problem, right? Because I don't know where it comes from. But how could you incentivize players to stay?
You're not gonna.